Such person must, and I quote, demonstrate majority support from each of 5 state delegations. It's the end of the quote. That is the rule under which we shall be operating. Therefore, when the Secretary calls the roll of the states, in order to determine which ones wish to place a name in nomination, I shall ask the chairman of each delegation indicating a desire to make a nomination to state that his or her delegate will cast a majority of its votes for the candidate it will nominate. Ladies and gentlemen, may we please have order? There are delegates who cannot hear this pronouncement, and it is an important pronouncement. It has to do with the procedure for the nomination of the candidates for president. Will you please indulge the chair until I have been able to explain the ground rules under which we will operate. Therefore, when the Secretary calls the roll of the states in order to determine which ones wish to place a name in nomination, I shall ask the chairman of each delegation indicating a desire to make a nomination to state that his or her delegation will cast a majority of its votes for the candidate it will nominate. If the chairman's answer is in the affirmative, I will then ask the chairman to identify the other 4 state delegations which are prepared to support the candidate for nomination with a majority of their votes. If those states which are identified support the statement of the chairman of the delegation preparing to make a nomination, such name may properly under Rule 16 be placed in nomination. Following the completion of this call, the chair will recognize those states who indicated an intention to place a name in nomination. Under Rule 16 of the convention, the total time for nominating speeches and seconding speeches for any candidate for president shall not exceed 15 minutes. When the names of candidates have been placed in nomination, the chair will ask the secretary to call the roll of states for the purpose of voting. Under Rule 16 of the convention, once the secretary has begun to call the roll, it cannot be dispensed with for any reason. Therefore, all states will be called. If any state desires to pass at this time, it may, of course, do so. At the conclusion of the first call of the roll, the secretary will proceed to call the names of those states which passed. No delegation will be recognized to change its vote until all delegations which passed have been given a second opportunity to vote. This is in accord with Rule 18B. Finally, the chair wishes the delegates to be aware of Rule 17, which states, and I quote, "When it appears at the close of the roll call that any candidate for the nomination for president or vice president has received the majority of the votes entitled to be cast in the convention, the chairman of the convention shall announce the question to be, shall the nomination of the candidate be made unanimous?" Now, if the delegates will please take their seats and clear the aisles, we are now ready to begin the very important business of nominating the next President of the United States. Before I ask the Secretary to call the roll of the states, the Chair has an important announcement to make. It has been customary in past conventions to permit the Chair to recognize non-delegates for nominating and seconding speeches. Is there objection to that procedure at this convention? The Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. The state that desires to place a name in nomination will so indicate when the name of the state is called. The Secretary will proceed with the call of the roll of the states. After the aisles have been cleared of delegates and alternates who should be in their seats and of persons who are not legally in the hall, will all of those persons who are not legally in the hall please retire to another place? Will all of the delegates and alternates please be in their seats? At this point, The chair recognizes the secretary of the convention, Mrs. Mary Crisp, the National Committee woman from the great state of Arizona, who will call the roll of the states. Mrs. Crisp.
There's my friends over there, huh? Mr. Chairman, delegates, alternates, I shall now proceed to call the roll. Alabama.
Madam Secretary, Alabama, the state opposed to amnesty for draft dodgers under any circumstance. Yields to our great western state of Nevada for the nomination of a presidential candidate.
Thank you. Can I have your attention, please?
May I have the attention of the chairman of the Nevada delegation? The chairman of the Nevada delegation. Mr. Chairman, can you assure the convention that a majority of the members of your delegation will support the candidate whose name you are about to place in nomination? Where is he? What? Go to the, will you please go to the microphone? This microphone. The chair recognizes the delegate from the state of Nevada for the purpose of making a statement.
For the purpose of nomination.
Can you get it?
Mr. Chairman, the great state of Nevada wishes to place in nomination the name of Ronald Reagan.
New system, by the new rules of the Republican Party, it takes some of that phony suspense out of the nominating speeches that were a tradition and a cliche of politics for so long. The man who speech. The man who speech went through 15 or 20 minutes, and sometimes the perorations lasted much longer than that before the nominating speaker got around to his last words of his speech. The man who always turning out to be, of course, the person he nominated in the very last sentence. But that's all over now. And as you heard, the gentleman from Nevada had to identify the individual who the state expected to nominate, and that sets off the first Reagan demonstration. Now, this is not supposed to be the 15-minute demonstration with music provided by the orchestra that is hired by the convention arrangements people, and will be playing for both demonstrations. This is simply an added starter. We might find that Chairman Rhodes may tell these Reagan supporters at some point that the time they take for this demonstration will come off of their 15-minute demonstration time later. That might be a prerogative of his that he would exercise here, and we'll wait and see.
please have order? Will the delegates please take their seats? There will be time for demonstrations later.
One interesting aspect of the floor operations tonight, the Reagan people have come forth with green baseball caps tonight, very much like the Ford floor operators did 2 nights ago with red and yellow caps, so that the floor leaders and whips could be easily identified to themselves as well as to delegates and their own supporters. The Reagan people did not catch up with that. As a matter of fact, our floor reporters have said that the floor leaders of the Reagan forces did not seem to be very much in evidence, even during that crucial vote last night. What an interesting little development tonight. A gentleman in the Virginia delegation came in with a small box filled with red and yellow baseball caps and passed them out to friends in the Virginia and other delegations. And now there are a lot of people down there in red and yellow baseball caps, and they can't be told from the Ford floor leaders. An exercise in camouflage, if you please, if not just a simple practical joke. Chairman John Rhodes pounding the gavel, trying to get order again. The podium has been using music to try to soothe these excited breasts in the hall here in Kansas City. Music can, of course, excite demonstrations and also be used, they hope, to quiet them down, and it's been reasonably effective. They play a couple of patriotic numbers leading into one that they think the delegates here are likely to join in singing, such as God Bless America. That worked last night and it worked again tonight in the earlier demonstrations when Mrs. Ford and Mrs. Reagan came into the hall. They may be trying it again shortly here. There they go.
Question I asked him a while ago. Reagan supporters have been demonstrating almost 7 minutes now, and that wasn't even the nomination of their man. It was simply a reference by the Nevada delegation that they intend to put Ronald Reagan's name before the convention. That actually will come later.
Bless America didn't do it last time, so the band is going to strike up again. Minutes after his name was first mentioned in the roll call of states, these Reagan supporters just will not be denied. They are still demonstrating despite the pounding of the gavel by Chairman John Rhodes. Mary Crisp, the secretary of the convention, tried even to lead the singing of God Bless America, hoping that would do it. Nothing yet.
Delegates, please be seated. May we proceed with the business of the convention? Will the delegates please be seated so we may proceed with the nomination of the next President of the United States? The chair awaits the pleasure of the people in the galleries. Will the people to my left please be seated? There will be other times for demonstrations. Will the delegates to my right please be seated? There will be other times for demonstrations.
Third time we're getting God Bless America tonight. They may be importing Kate Smith before this demonstration is over. Sometimes a single tune is used frequently in a convention proceeding. Somehow or other, at the 1936 Republican Convention, somebody counted the number of times the band played "Oh Susanna," which was the theme song of the Alf Landon campaign, and they counted over 100 times before they got through, I think. We'll see if this third time is the charm for God Bless America with the Reagan demonstration, which has now been going on for just about 15 minutes. That was going to be the full amount allotted for the demonstration when the actual nomination took place, which hasn't come yet. A lot of signs down there on the floor. You might have caught some of them. Rocky won't steal my sign. That's in reference to last night when Nelson Rockefeller grabbed a Reagan sign and started a little discussion, I guess we could call it, down in the New York delegation, where the man from whom he took the sign got angry, State Senator Douglas Bischoff of Utah, and he ripped out the New York delegation's telephone. But apparently Nelson Rockefeller referred to that on one of the morning talk shows today, and now Senator Bischoff says he may sue Nelson Rockefeller because Bischoff told our Reed Collins that he'd been consulting an attorney when he heard Rockefeller infer, said Mr. Bischoff, that I had been drinking. Bischoff's a Mormon from Salt Lake City, says he doesn't drink. He thinks Rockefeller's allegation is actionable, and he's been talking to his attorney. The Republican National Convention coverage by CBS News will resume after this message.
I drive a cement mixer. It has blades inside the drum that turn around continuously. One day, my water-resistant Timex fell inside the cement drum. Darn. It had about 3 yards of cement and 100 gallons of water. I thought I'd never see my watch again, at least not in one piece. At the end of the day, out came something shiny. My Timex watch, badly scratched, skinned, but working perfectly. Good old dependable Timex.
Timex, it takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
Whenever inspiration strikes, night or day, there's a way to put that idea in writing and get it to where it will do the most good.
Hello, Western Union. I want to send a mailgram. Regarding that shipment to Akron.
A mailgram is flashed electronically to a post office near the addressee for delivery with the next business day's mail. A mailgram has the impact of a telegram at a fraction of the cost.
Hold it, Harry! It's going to Goodrich, not Goodyear!
California, here we come!
In their new Maverick, the family compact that keeps getting better. This year, the base Maverick got 13% better mileage rating than last year. That's a lot of extra miles to see lots of country.
Daddy, are we there?
Carefree miles, too. Over the last 3 years, 57% of Maverick's scheduled maintenance requirements have been reduced or eliminated.
Are we there?
Maverick, the dependable family compact.
We're here!
The closer you look, the better we look.
I just signed us up with the winning team.
New York Life?
Hey, you've seen them on TV. They'll help us reach our goal of financial security.
Through life insurance. Good boy.
I can even add up to 7 new policies later, no matter what my health or occupation.
Freddie, I'm glad we're on the same team.
I do. I will. I am.
For your security, sign up with the winning team. New York Life.
17 minutes this demonstration for Ronald Reagan has been going on, and Congressman John Rhodes of Arizona, the permanent chairman of this 31st quadrennial Republican convention, has not been able to quiet the crowds. John Rhodes is the House Minority Leader, you know. He hopes that while he is still in the leadership role on the Republican side, will elect a Republican Congress, which would, by all reasonable odds, elevate him to the speakership of the House of Representatives. He's a native of Kansas and a graduate of Harvard Law School. In that House minority leadership role, he succeeded a young congressman from Michigan by the name of Gerald Ford, who was named to be vice president by Richard Nixon when Spiro Agnew resigned. Dan Rather tells us that the Ford floor whips have passed the word, which obviously was also agreed upon by John Rhodes, who is, incidentally, a Ford supporter, passed the word to let this demonstration run its course, not try to cut it short. They certainly seem to be doing that pretty well. They haven't invoked the assistance of the Sergeant-at-Arms to get the crowd quiet and get them in their seats. They have tried 3 times to play God Bless America. That didn't have the charm it should have, apparently, with this crowd of Reagan supporters. I think we had a glimpse of Pat Boone down there a minute ago. He's a Reagan supporter. Sonny Bono is in the crowd here, as you saw a little while earlier. He's in the box next to the Ford delegation. John Rhodes trying to get the attention of the delegation as Mrs. Reagan signs autographs in her box.
Please announce the name of the other 4 states delegations which will support the nominee of Nevada.
John Rhodes is going right ahead with the procedures of the convention, but I don't know how he expects to be heard. He's asking for the names of the delegations that will support the nomination of Ronald Reagan. It takes 5 states. He's asked the Nevada delegation to name them. The 5 states will be the other 4 besides Nevada: California, Texas, Georgia, and Missouri when he gets to it.
Chairman of the Nevada delegation, Senator Laxalt, please give the chair the names of 4 states which will support the nominee of Nevada under the rules of the convention.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Laxalt.
the name of the supporting states are the great states of California, the great state of Texas, the great state of Georgia, and the great state of Missouri.
I thank the delegate. It is now necessary for the chairman of the delegation from the states of California, Texas, Georgia, and Missouri to confirm the support of a majority of those delegations for the candidate the state of Nevada is about to nominate. The chair recognizes for that purpose the chairman of the delegation from the state of California.
Mr. Chairman,
The delegate
California, yes, 167 times.
The chair recognizes the chairman of the delegation from Texas. The chair recognizes the chairman of the delegation from the state of Texas.
Mr. Chairman, the 100 delegates from Texas concur.
The chair understands that a majority of the delegates from Texas will support the candidate to be nominated by Nevada. The chair now recognizes the chairman of the delegation from the state of Georgia.
Mr. Chairman,
The delegates recognized.
in the state of Georgia, the vote is unanimous.
Will the delegate from Georgia affirm that a majority of the delegates from his state will support the nominee of the state of Nevada? Will the chairman give me his attention? Will the chairman affirm that a majority of the delegates from his state will support the nominee of the state of Nevada? I need to get an answer. To comply with the rules of the convention which we adopted yesterday.
Mr. Chairman, are you speaking the state of Georgia?
I am speaking the state of Georgia.
And
the chairman did not answer the chair's question.
The state of Georgia does have a majority of its delegates supporting the nomination of Ronald Reagan.
I thank the gentleman. Now, the chair now recognizes the chair now recognizes the chairman of the delegation of the state of Missouri.
Mr. Chairman, this is the vice chairman of the state of Missouri delegation, and the state of Missouri, by almost a 2-to-1 majority, favors Governor Ronald Reagan.
The delegates will be in order. The clerk will now continue the call of the roll of the states.
Alaska.
Madam Secretary, in the belief that the people of our nation hunger for better government will not be satisfied by settling for peanuts, the great state of Alaska yields to the home state of one whom we believe provides much better fare, though they be but 1/10 the size of Alaska. They have admittedly provided 10 times the amount of decibels and disruption to this convention. The tiny sovereign state of Michigan.
The chair recognizes the chairman of the delegation of the state of Michigan.
Mr. Chairman, Michigan, proudly and with enthusiasm, will cast a majority of its vote and place in nomination the name of the President of the United States.
Now, certainly the Ford demonstrators will be intent upon matching the demonstration for Reagan a little while ago. That lasted 21 minutes. We'll see what happens here now. Remind you that these aren't even the so-called official demonstrations. These aren't the ones in which the partisans are allowed 15 minutes and the band plays for them and all of that. That comes after the nominating and seconding speeches, which we have yet to hear. All that's happening now is that the convention is going through the roll call to find out who wants to make nominating speeches, and getting the confirmation that there are a total of 5 states that support the candidacy of anyone whose name will go before the convention from the podium itself. It is still possible for delegates to put names forward as the balloting takes place a little later on of anyone they wish. They just don't get the opportunity to go to the podium and make a speech about it. CBS News coverage of the Republican National Convention will continue in a moment.
This is CBS.
We want you for keeps. We want you for keeps.
Hi, I'm Johnny Mann, and these lyrics are sung by your Southern California Chevrolet dealers, and the Johnny Mann singers symbolize the Chevy dealers' pledge to you. Today, Chevrolet dealers offer the widest choice of cars and trucks in America. Economy and mileage you can believe in. It's their way of earning the right to keep you as a customer for keeps.
We want you for keeps.
High interest. That's American. American Savings customers earn hundreds of thousands of dollars daily with more services. Earn American's highest interest at American Savings. Like our certificate account that more than doubles your money at maturity. One of our savings specialists will help you choose the right savings plan.
Helping you, coming through, so your dreams can come true. Helping hands, making plans, that's American Savings.
The savings.
CBS Evening News tomorrow afternoon at 4.
CBS News continues its special report, Campaign 76. Tonight, the fourth session of the Republican National Convention from the Kemper Arena in Kansas City. This portion is sponsored by Mailgram, impact of a telegram at a fraction of the cost. Now here again is Walter Cronkite.
Well, this demonstration for President Ford is going on now for almost 10 minutes. 21 minutes were consumed in the demonstration for Ronald Reagan a little while ago, and these aren't the big demonstrations that are yet to come with musical accompaniment. Maybe we're going to see a record broken here tonight. Back in 1908, it was William Jennings Bryan's convention all the way as he sought the Democratic nomination that year. And when blind Senator Gore of Oklahoma in his keynote speech mentioned Bryan's name the first time, the demonstration started, and it went on for an hour and 27 minutes. And Bryan wasn't even in Denver where the convention was held. He stayed home in Lincoln, Nebraska, which wasn't unusual for the times. This year, for the first time, we have an incumbent president who's been in town all week directing his own personal campaign for a nomination. Dan Rather, who, as you know, covered the White House for a long time, is very friendly with many of the Secret Service people, says that the Secret Service is quite nervous about all of this demonstrating and noise in the convention hall. Security is getting rather tight around the Ford box. Probable that John Rhodes will let this Ford demonstration run the same length of time that the Reagan demonstration ran, or in other words, around 20 minutes. And at that time, he will just begin the procedures of the convention. That seemed to resume them. That seemed to work the last time to quiet finally the Reagan demonstration. When he does, he will ask that the state of Michigan put before the convention the names of the other 4 states which are required to second the nomination to bring it before the convention formally. The 4 states, we are told, that will second President Ford's nomination of Wisconsin and New York, Pennsylvania, and Kansas. Of course, the big speculation here tonight behind all of the hoopla is who President Ford named as his vice presidential running mate tomorrow. There's been some report that he will make that announcement around noon tomorrow. Senator Howard Baker of Tennessee is one of the favorites in the Convention City betting tonight for that vice presidential spot. Earlier this evening, he talked with Nelson Benton just off the convention floor.
There's a story out today that the list for vice president had been narrowed down to you and former Attorney General William Ruckelshaus. Can you add anything to that? Can you confirm that you're the last two?
No, I really can't. I don't know a thing on earth, Nelson. I haven't talked to Bill Ruckelshaus, but I certainly can't add anything to it. All I know is that even through today, my staff continues to work with the White House staff on sorting through that mountain of material that they requested and that we supplied about a week ago.
Well, it's been some time since you have seen the president about this or anything else.
It's been about 3 weeks. I saw him briefly today at the Unity Luncheon where the Republican National Committee had both President Ford and Governor Reagan there. But we only had a chance to speak briefly and not about that subject.
Well, did you sit down and talk to some great length with Mr. Buchan, the President's counsel, about this great pile of stuff that you had?
Oh, yeah. We, well, Phil Buchan and I talked for, I'd guess, an hour or thereabouts on the day, as I recall, that I came to Kansas City, which was last Friday. But that's the sum total of my conversations with Phil, except for an occasional phone call with somebody in his office. But mostly it's been handled staff to staff.
Senator, it was kind of speculated that had Rule 16C, which would have forced the president to name his running mate tomorrow, had that failed, it would have enhanced your chances as being the nominee. Since it passed, do you think that has hurt the possibility of you being the running mate?
Nobody on earth knows, you know, unless it's Jerry Ford or President Ford, and he ain't telling. So I don't know. You could make that argument, I guess, but I really never have been attracted to it. I have no doubt that the Buchan office, the White House, was running through a whole list of people. Not just my material. So I really sort of doubt that was so. I guess the major argument was, well, they've done all of this on Baker. He's available, and why not just decide he'd be the favorite? I don't believe that. I think they've done others as well.
Incidentally, that other name, which is frequently mentioned, Bill Ruckelshaus, you remember he was the Deputy Attorney General in the famous Saturday Night Massacre, and having lost his job by standing firm on that particular matter, became one of the Republican heroes of Watergate. But he's living out in Seattle, Washington now, and he said today that he had not been contacted today by the White House. If anything's going on his behalf, he knows nothing of it on this vice presidential run. And now John Rhodes seems to have gotten quiet out there in the hall. Let's go back to the podium.
Mr. Chairman,
the delegate from the state of New York.
The great state of New York, the Empire State, will cast an overwhelming majority of its votes for the President of the United States.
The chair now recognizes the chairman of the delegation of the state of Pennsylvania.
Mr. Chairman,
the delegate is recognized.
The great Keystone Commonwealth, not state, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will cast a majority, an overwhelming majority, a very big majority for President Ford.
The chair thanks the chairman of the delegation from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and accepts the amendment of Senator Scott. The chair now recognizes the chairman of the delegation from the state of Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, Governor Knowles speaking for the delegates of the state of Wisconsin, who unanimously cast 45 of their votes unanimously for President Ford.
Would the chairman of the Wisconsin delegation state whether or not that is more than a majority of your delegation?
Mr. Chairman, that constitutes all of the delegates from Wisconsin, 45 totally.
The chair now recognizes the chairman of the delegation from the great state of Kansas, Governor Bennett.
Mr. Chairman, the sovereign state of Kansas is happy to advise the chair that a decisive majority of our delegates will vote in favor of President Ford for the presidency.
The delegates will be in order, and the secretary will continue the call of the roll of the states.
Arizona. Could I hear from the chairman of Arizona? Mr. Coulter.
By the rules, the entire roll of the 50 states must be called, but it is not.
Madam Secretary, the great Kansas state of Arizona passes.
It is not anticipated that there will be any other name placed in nomination before this convention. The Republican National Convention coverage by CBS News will resume after this message.
California.
When you want to get through to someone important, the phone can be a problem.
Sorry, he's still tied up.
There's a better way to get your message through.
Hello, Western Union. I want to send a mailgram. Regarding the job you advertise.
A mailgram is flashed electronically to a post office near the addressee for delivery with the next business day's mail. A mailgram has the impact of a telegram at a fraction of the cost.
We ought to hire this guy.
Paul Colby, wine editor, Spear Magazine. Hearty Burgundy receives well-deserved recognition from both layman and expert. Roy Andries de Groot, wine editor, Esquire Magazine, says, I have never found any wine to equal the combination of quality and value. Robert Lawrence Balzer, Holiday Magazine. Gallo Hearty Burgundy is the greatest value in red wine in America. Judge it yourself. The best of the Burgundies. Gallo, California, Hearty Burgundy.
Know what I'm wearing under my sweater? A new bra that gives me fullness 3 ways. Fullness for my basic look, fullness for my sophisticated look, fullness for my sexy look. The new Instead convertible strap bra. It gives me the fullness that nature forgot. 3 ways. On the shoulder, as a halter, or crisscross. So every time I change the straps, I get fullness a different way. The new Instead convertible strap bra by Playtex. It gives you fullness 3 ways.
One night, that's $21.50.
$21.50? But your sign says $9.99.
Oh, yes, but that doesn't include the pool, your kid, the TV, towels. Surprise!
You get enough surprises when you travel. That's why Holiday Inn thinks the best surprise is no surprise. You'll always get a big, comfortable room and special family rates. 2 of the 152 special standards for prices, rooms, restaurants that let you know at every Holiday Inn the best surprise is no surprise.
Mary Crisp, the Secretary of the Convention, has gotten to Minnesota in the roll call, and there have been, as expected, no further nominations for the presidency. When this roll call is completed, then the speeches of nomination will take place, and that will set off further demonstrations, as expected, with some musical background this time. Now let's go back to the podium.
Nebraska.
Madam Chairman, Nebraska passes.
Nevada.
Madam Chairman, Nevada passes.
New Hampshire.
Madam Chairman, the granite state of New Hampshire passes.
New Jersey.
Madam Chairman, New Jersey passes.
New Mexico.
Madam Secretary, the state of New Mexico passes.
New York. New York.
New York passes.
North Carolina. North Carolina.
Passes.
North Carolina.
North Carolina passes.
Ohio.
Ohio passes.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma passes.
Oregon.
Madam Secretary, the state of Oregon passes.
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania passes.
Puerto Rico.
Madam Chairman, the next state of Puerto Rico passes.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island passes.
I have to back up. North Dakota. Forgive me, I'm sorry. What is your response, please?
To your being sorry, or...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Thank you. North Dakota, thank you for the opportunity. Passes.
Thank you, my apologies. South Carolina.
Madam Chairman, South Carolina passes.
South Dakota.
Madam Chairman, South Dakota passes.
Tennessee.
Madam Chairman, Tennessee passes.
Texas.
Texas quietly passes.
Utah.
Utah passes.
Vermont.
Madam Chairman, Vermont, the Green Mountain State, reluctantly passes.
The Virgin Islands.
Madam Chairman, the Virgin Islands, constituting St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, passes.
I've done it again. Excuse me. I overlooked the state of Virginia. My apologies. May I hear from Virginia, please?
Madam Chairman, the Commonwealth of Virginia, home of Thomas Jefferson in this bicentennial year, passes.
Thank you. Washington.
Madam Secretary, the state of Washington, the capital of the world, passes.
Thank you. West Virginia.
Madam Chairman, West Virginia passes.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, having seconded the nomination of President Ford, now passes.
Wyoming.
Wyoming passes.
Did I neglect to call any other states? If not, Mr. Chairman, this concludes the call of the roll.
The state of Alabama having yielded to the state of Nevada, the chair now recognizes the chairman of the Nevada delegation, the United States Senator from Nevada, the Honorable Paul Laxalt. Senator Laxalt.
Paul Laxalt comes forward to make the nominating speech for Ronald Reagan. Our CBS News delegate count is almost complete now, with only 2 uncommitted still on our list. President Ford, according to our count, has 1,189 votes. Ronald Reagan, 1,068 votes. So 2 undetermined. One is Eliza Sprinkle from Bristol, Virginia, who is still uncommitted, and 1 vote required to be cast as uncommitted from North Carolina. Paul Laxalt is chairman of the Citizens for Reagan. He's a first-term senator from Nevada. He's the first Basque American senator ever. The Basque country being that country that comprises some areas of southern France and of northern Spain and the Pyrenees. He's the first Republican senator from Nevada since 1952. And also, if you'd like a little parenthetical side note, he's one of the few people who talked to Howard Hughes on the telephone in the last 2 decades before Hughes' death last year. As a prominent Nevadan, he was involved with Hughes in some of the operations out there. He organized the Citizens for Reagan Committee in July of 1975. Reagan announced his candidacy 3-4 months later in November. Senator Jesse Helms of North Carolina will be making a seconding speech. We've seen an advanced copy of it, and it's a rip-snorting speech in which he lays into the Ford-Kissinger foreign policy. It'll probably excite these Reagan delegates again when that speech begins. What Paul Laxalt has in mind, we will find out in the next few minutes.
I hereby proudly to nominate Ronald Reagan for the office of President of the United States.
Convention is going to be able to endure or take. Mrs. Ford seems to be leaving her box at the moment as the Reagan demonstration continues. Ronald Reagan with his choice for the vice presidential ticket, Richard Schweiker of Pennsylvania, senator from Pennsylvania. Schweiker was named as Reagan's running mate by the candidate 3 weeks ago. It was a controversial choice made to bring in delegates from the northeastern part of the United States. Brought some, but not as many as believed was hoped. And today, under some suggestions from southern delegates we've been led to believe, Senator Schweiker offered to Reagan to drop out of the race. Governor Reagan told him absolutely not, that when he picked him, they were a team, and they would go down as a team if that's the way it had to be. Our delegate poll indicates that's the way it has to be. It appears that Ronald Reagan will be defeated tonight when the voting takes place. Now a 5-minute demonstration, 21 minutes before, and we've had 26 minutes of Reagan demonstrations so far. Incidentally, the Ford demonstration was cut off there at about 15 minutes before. So on the battle of demonstrations, at least at this point, it would appear that the Reagan forces are winning. We've had some indication from our floor reporters and from the podium, as a matter of fact, that this is another example of the Ford people who do control the convention machinery, leaning over backwards to try to not antagonize the Reagan people, an effort to keep the bridges open to unity in the party after this convention is over, and they are not forcing a closure of these Reagan demonstrations. That would seem to be indicated since the Ford demonstration ended earlier than the Reagan demonstration the last time around. And now Paul Laxalt continues.
May we have some quiet, please? It would be appreciated. May I say this in behalf of Governor Reagan and myself at the outset. We're both extremely interested, of course, in the candidacy. But we're first both Republicans. And let me assure you tonight that regardless of how these cards fall tonight, that Ronald Reagan and Paul Laxalt will work firmly behind the ticket. Let me tell you for a moment or two why I support Ronald Reagan and have from the beginning. I first met this man in 1964 in the Goldwater campaign and was greatly impressed by his speech, which was one of the great political masterpieces of our time. I then observed as a neighboring governor this man running as a citizen politician for governorship of the state of California. He took over the most complex set of problems that anybody could ever conceive, and I appreciated that particularly, being a governor myself. He took over a state that was dead-ridden. He took over a state that was hopelessly morassed in welfare problems. He took over a state in which the campuses were in total turmoil. Very quickly upon taking office, he brought into Sacramento businessmen and people throughout California qualified to answer and analyze government and took appropriate action. Within 8 years, this man returned to the people of the state of California billions of dollars in tax rebates. And believe me, that's refreshing these days. Same period, he instituted a comprehensive welfare program, drastically reduced the welfare rolls in California, yet benefiting increasingly those who needed it, establishing a model in this country that all the states wish to copy and the Congress should as well. He left his successor, Jerry Brown, a surplus of some $500 million. In fact, he left the state of California in such good shape that Jerry Brown has been hassling Jimmy Carter all this year, and that's not all bad. And I must admit, although I observed this firsthand, I didn't truly appreciate Ronald Reagan until I came here to Washington. I had a suspicion that the real pros, the real heavyweights in this business, lived and worked along the banks of the Potomac. But boy, was I mistaken. I found in Washington a bureaucracy that runs the affairs of the people of this country and not the Congress and not the cabinet and not even the presidency. When I am the type of fellow who believes that the people of this country, through the elected representatives, should run the affairs of this country and not an unelected bureaucracy. I found bureaucrats regulating the small businesses of this country who'd never met a payroll and who didn't have the least idea of knowing how to regulate a small business. I found no real appreciation in all of Washington that the real strength of this country lies not in big government, but lies in the private enterprise sector of the United States. Washington, who's better capable of running our schools in this country than the representatives within the local school districts. I saw fiscal insanity that's absolutely mind-boggling. I've been told that a $700 billion deficit is no great problem, and yet I wonder what we're doing to the generations that follow. What I'm saying is this: the more that I saw in Washington, the more I appreciated Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, in addition to qualification, brings an essential ingredient to his candidacy. He's independent of the Washington scene. He has the type of independence that's going to permit him to come to that town, trim back that bureaucracy, and more important, whip that irresponsible Congress into line. An essential consideration of all of us as Republicans should be, which of the candidates is more electable? Effective political campaigner in this country than Ronald Reagan. Now, when I say that, that's not merely rhetoric. We have a track record to establish it. Several months ago, he took on the incumbency and the White House and the whole bit. We had within our camp in the whole Congress some 9 people out of 535. We had hardly anybody in the National Committee, hardly anybody in elected office throughout the country. But we did have the people, and that made the difference, and that's why we're here. Let me tell you this. I've been with Ron and Nancy Reagan for these last several months all over this country. And I would venture to say that nobody who's ever campaigned for President of the United States worked harder or more effectively than Ron and Nancy Reagan. There's been a great deal of discussion during the last few weeks about presidential debates, and presidential debates there will be. And I would dearly love to see Ronald Reagan debate Jimmy Carter. You this, that after about one round of debating with Ron Reagan, Jimmy Carter would go back shucking peanuts if that's what you do with peanuts. Lastly, let me say this. We have a rare opportunity as Republicans tonight. We have the opportunity, in my judgment, to elect and nominate the finest Republican candidate that's hit a Republican convention in recent years, Ronald Reagan.
What might be called official Reagan demonstration. And those frisbee-type whirling discs the Reagan people put out are being flung through the hall as the band strikes up California, Here We Come. Maybe that's not quite the tune for Ronald Reagan forces tonight. It was really Washington to which Ronald Reagan intended to be going from Kansas City. Parading in the aisles, snake dance has begun. They're going to be, it was said, allowed 15 minutes for this demonstration. They went 21 or 22 minutes earlier tonight before the official demonstration ever got started. We'll see how this one goes. But for the first time, we see the parading in the aisles that has become traditional at political conventions when there is really some spirit to them, as there is this year, for quite a change at this Republican National Convention. It's certainly easy to tell how evenly divided these delegates are. It has been a touch-and-go battle. Ronald Reagan has put up quite a fight for his cause, for his purpose. He got within just a few votes of enough to put him over the top. In the test vote last night, he failed. Test vote on a rules change, which would have forced President Ford to name his vice presidential candidate, even as Ronald Reagan had named his a couple of weeks ago. Reagan crowd in the Kemper Arena. There's Mrs. Reagan. Republican National Convention coverage by CBS News will resume after this message.
I'm the spot maker. I live in your dishwasher, spotting and streaking glasses and dishes. Do I make you unhappy? Embarrass you? Oh, no! Calgonite!
That's right, spot maker. New improved Calgonite with blue cleaning crystals to wash soft water clean, rinse soft water clear. It keeps the spot maker out of your dishwasher. For the cleanest, clearest dishware possible, get new improved Calgonite. Calgonite, the end of the spot maker.
On your left, Super Dennis in rugged JCPenney Super Denim jeans for boys. On your right, the challenger, Super Denise, out to prove that Super Denims for girls may be pretty, but they're just as tough as the boys. Both are extra heavy denim. Seams double-stitched. Stress points reinforced. Wow, look at those robots go. JCPenney Super Denims for boys and girls. We know they're both just as tough, but Super Dennis will never admit it.
Time changes the way we look at things, even cars. With energy, ecology, and economy so important, America needs a new kind of car. The precision-size Mercury Monarch, over a foot shorter than most mid-size cars, but with about as much headroom and legroom. Moderately priced, yet engineered by Lincoln Mercury for a smooth, luxury ride. Any car that expects to be around tomorrow better be as intelligently designed as Mercury Monarch is today.
The Reagan demonstration on for 3 or 4 minutes now, and it's likely to go on for at least 10 minutes more and maybe far beyond that. They're dancing in the aisles, parading in the aisles, waving their banners, blowing the horns, and you're privileged to watch by the miracle of television. Demonstration goes on and on and on. As my colleague Morton Dean said, and this is the silent majority. The Republican National Convention coverage by CBS News will resume after this message.
Sending word across our nation when it was young could take days, even weeks. Rapid communication was impossible. Then, Western Union spanned America with wires. Telegraph wires that could speed words across country in minutes. But today, a new barrier exists. Not distance, but words themselves. we generate words at an astounding rate, so fast that our ability to move them is falling behind our ability to produce them. But a new era is dawning. In this valley, the antennas of an Earth station are aimed into space, beaming millions of words over an advanced communication system, a network operated for business, government, and the public by Western Union. To see how this system works, let's follow this electronic stream of words from Earth into outer space. Here, more than 22,000 miles above Earth, is America's first domestic communications satellite, Western Union's Westar. Westar can relay up to 8 million words per second. Western Union messages, computer data, telephone calls, and broadcast signals travel up from Earth to Westar, then back to an Earth station at the speed of light. From there, Western Union's land-based networks relay these messages to their destinations. With 2 Westar satellites now in orbit, Western Union can provide telephone, data, and video transmission links at lower cost than earthbound systems. The Westar Satellite Network, a giant step toward making Western Union once again the fastest way to get the word around.
This is CBS.
Mazda now offers you what no car maker has ever offered. Free parts, free labor, free oil, free tune-ups. In fact, all required service is free at your Mazda dealer. This offer is good for 2 years or 25,000 miles, whichever comes first, on all new rotary engine cars and trucks bought since July 1st and driven normally. Now, during Mazda's 2-year, 25,000-mile free-for-all, all you pay for is gas. Think about it and see your Mazda dealer today.
When you feel it, say it.
If the only thing keeping you from calling long distance is the cost, remember, this evening at 5 it went down, an average of 20%.
When I'm in your thoughts, on your mind.
Long distance gets you there right now, and right now it's 20% cheaper.
Say it.
KNXT, Los Angeles.
CBS News continues its special report, Campaign 76. Tonight, the 4th session of the Republican National Convention from the Kemper Arena in Kansas City. This portion sponsored by the people of Ford Motor Company on behalf of Ford and Lincoln Mercury dealers. Ford wants to be your car company. Now here again is Walter Cronkite.
Nevada's Senator Paul Laxalt, the chairman of the Reagan Presidential Campaign Committee, 10 minutes ago put his man's name into nomination before the delegates to this Republican National Convention. And since then, the Reagan supporters have been demonstrating here, as one would expect. They've got a couple of more minutes of band music allotted to them before the chair will try to quiet them down and get back to the continuing nominating business of this convention. Mrs. Ford and her family left their exposed box just above the arena floor a little while ago and went up a few steps up to one of the glass enclosed boxes, and presumably she is still there and is able to watch the demonstration for her husband's rival, the challenger who has come closer to unseating an incumbent president for his party's nomination than any man since it was done successfully in 1884. Reported just a little while ago, our CBS News delegate poll, with the voting just not very far away, has finally gotten down to only 2 uncommitted votes, and our total shows 1,189 votes tonight for President Ford and 1,060 for Governor Reagan. With two undetermined. One of those is an uncommitted vote that must be cast by law as uncommitted from North Carolina. The other is Eliza Sprinkle from Bristol, Virginia. She still hasn't made up her mind according to our poll. Of course, it's quite possible that Ms. Sprinkle just isn't telling us. The music has stopped. The 15 minutes allotted for music is up. Dan Rather, the repertorial bird dog that he is, has come up with an interesting fact tonight. He says that the floor demonstrations to be staged for the Ford nomination for his supporters were planned with the advice of former Nixon aide Dwight Chapin. Dwight Chapin was the man who did that job for Nixon in 1972 and 68. But then he was one of those who fell in the Watergate scandals and was sentenced to 10 months for lying to a grand jury in the Watergate case. He's now on the payroll of W. Clement Stone, the big payroll, the big backer of the Nixon campaigns, who told Mike Wallace last night that he thought he'd probably put up about $5 million for various Nixon campaigns. Quite a hunk of change. Chapin has been consulted regularly, according to Dan, by the Ford campaign organizers, although Dan says there's no indication that Dwight Chapin is in Kansas City now. It has been noted that there are no balloons here, as there were in 1972. Dan suggests that's because of the resemblance to the 72 campaign for Richard Nixon. And Richard Nixon is a non-person at this convention. His name has not been mentioned from the podium. There are no pictures of him in the hall. The one reference to him praising his China policy was removed from the draft of the platform by the platform committee. Bruce Morton on the podium right now is in the middle of all of this demonstration. Bruce?
I was going to say, Walter, this is the eye of the storm, so to speak. I ought to tell you that this demonstration is officially over. I ought to tell you that because you'd never know it from looking at it. Senator Paul Laxalt, the man who nominated Governor Reagan, came by a minute or two ago and said, I don't know how we're going to do on the vote, but I'm pretty sure we've won the demonstration. And I suspect he may be right about that. Just down here in front of the podium, there's a mob of people sort of clustered with big signs and banners, as I think you can see. The reason, I believe, Walter, is that there are two television pool cameras here, and I think a lot of the demonstrators don't realize that there are other cameras higher up all around the hall that can see them. They've spotted these two, and they're planted here with a big assortment of Reagan banners so that they want to be sure they'll be seen. At any rate, this is going on and on. The end is not in view. And there are just absolutely no signs at all of stopping. John Rhodes has tried once to bang his gavel, but the plastic horns in this hall make so much noise that I doubt if the demonstrators could hear it even if they wanted to, and it's more or less for sure that they don't want to just yet. Their unofficial demonstration, Walter, went on, as I think you said, just over 20 minutes, 21, 22 minutes. This one looks like beating that fairly easily. Walter?
Bruce, one of the mysteries we've been trying to solve around here is where those plastic horns actually came from. I mean, we know that they were distributed free to the delegates as they entered the hall tonight indiscriminately. Reagan and Ford people both were offered them. It's something of a mystery. Who thought that was a good idea? If they were trying to drum up enthusiasm at this convention, it hardly seemed necessary. As a matter of fact, as John Rhodes, the chairman, said from the podium not very long ago, stop acting like a Democrat convention. But somebody thought that the horns were a good idea, and there they are.
I don't know what it proves, Walter. It may be that the Reagan people are more musical, or at least more horn-prone. Their demonstrations seem to rely on them more than the Ford demonstrations do. You wonder, the Democrats got a bad name in 1972 for staying up late at night and arguing. I don't know what this looks like on the home screen, but whatever it looks like, there's an awful lot of it this evening.
You can say that again, but don't, Bruce.
Anyway, you can hear it, and it is going on. Here's John Rose again.
There really isn't any practical way, Bruce, is there, for the command structure to stop a thing like this? The sergeant-at-arms aides are Burns, I believe they are Burns, aren't they, detective people? But they're mostly young girls, a few young men. They're not policemen in any sense of the word. And as a matter of fact, they were told when they took the jobs that there would be no physical contact in any way with these various delegates at any time. They really can't do very much about it, can they?
No, this is, on the one hand, it's all perfectly friendly and nobody's angry at anybody. On the other hand, it is, in fact, out of control, and that the people in charge of this convention cannot, short of, I suppose, calling in the genuine police, do anything about this, and they don't want to do anything that would rub tempers as raw as that. So this demonstration will go on for as long as the demonstrators want it to. The ushers you talked about are here, but there aren't very many of them. Some of them are young women, some of them, as you say, are middle-aged or elderly people. They're not about to start pushing these delegates back towards their seats.
Bruce, Barry Seraphin, as you know, has been covering the Reagan campaign, and he's been down in Governor Reagan's suite while he watched the convention. Barry, what's the scene inside the candidate's suite?
Walter, the scene inside that suite is in striking contrast to the kind of pandemonium you're seeing down there at the hall. We were in there for, perhaps 15 or 20 minutes during the time that Senator Laxalt was making the nomination speech. Governor Reagan was watching that speech with Senator Schweiker. Both men, I thought, were very quiet. Governor Reagan was particularly grim in appearance, intent on watching. Very few smiles. He would smile occasionally when a picture of his wife, Nancy, would come on the screen. But for the most part, tight-lipped, a man who didn't look like he was enjoying this evening at all. Senator Schweiker smiled a little more, even nodded his head in time to the music during the demonstration a little bit. But the scene was very much in contrast to the one you've got down there. Reagan aides up there on the same hotel floor are making the kind of jokes that you find in moments like this, sort of dark humor. They're talking about this campaign in the past tense to a large degree. And I think that Governor Reagan, his aides describe him as a realist. I think that as a realist, he doesn't expect this to go anywhere tonight. It struck me that it was a particularly tough moment at times during Senator Laxalt's speech, when the senator was talking about the possibility of Ronald Reagan, for example, debating Jimmy Carter, the things that I suspect Reagan does not expect to be able to do, and he was particularly grim at those kind of moments. Walter.
Barry, thank you. You may have wondered why we have been seeing Governor Reagan in his suite, but not President Ford in his. Well, it turns out that quite a little contretemps has occurred because of that. The Ford people are not letting television into the suite at the Crown Center Hotel. They did invite up a couple of pool reporters, and then when that started a little bit of a fuss among other reporters who weren't invited, they invited the AP and the UPI press services to send a man, or a reporter each, and both the press services said no, they thought that was discriminatory, that unless television, radio, and other areas of the media could be represented there, they wouldn't go. And they haven't gone, and that's the way it stands right at the moment. If there are any further reports, Bob Pierpoint, who is down there and hoping to get in with microphone and camera, will let us know. We'll be back in 1 minute with more CBS News coverage of the Republican National Convention.
When the season of collage turns to fall this year, you'll see a new me. Like a cloud soaring high in the wind, you'll see that I'm finally free. La 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 la. It's good love when you put it all together.
high interest. That's American. American Savings customers earn hundreds of thousands of dollars daily with more services. Earn American's highest interest at American Savings. Like our certificate account that more than doubles your money at maturity. One of our savings specialists will help you choose the right savings plan.
Helping you, coming through, so your dreams can come true. Helping hands, making plans, that's American Savings.
The Savings Specialists.
Well, it's 25 minutes now that this demonstration for Ronald Reagan has been going on after Senator Laxalt put his name into nomination. There was a 22-minute demonstration earlier tonight, so if my arithmetic is correct, that's 47 minutes that the Reagan people have been demonstrating this evening in 2 sections. And we haven't even gotten to the seconding speech for Reagan as yet. That's supposed to be quite a stem winder by Senator Jesse Helms of North Carolina, leader of the independent conservative forces, as he calls it, a man around whom many of the conservatives would like to organize an extra effort, maybe a third party even. He said he would have no part of that earlier today. He said he was sticking with the two-party system. But he's got quite a speech. We saw an advanced copy of it, and it is indeed one that should again excite this Reagan crowd. Whether this sort of thing influences any votes is highly doubtful. Demonstrations have in the past when perhaps the delegates weren't quite as sophisticated as they are in the present day. Also, when there were more than simply 2 candidates and there was a lot of maneuver and many ballots, then demonstrations kind of indicated who was for whom, who was leaning. There was a lot of the business of grabbing banners for the states and pushing them into a parade, indicating that a state was beginning to swing over to one candidate or another. But that sort of thing doesn't count anymore, particularly when you've got simply a 2-man race, as this one has turned out to be. And what a race. Interesting sign, a little bit of philosophy. Highly unlikely, as close as this race has been, that this demonstration is going to get any of that 102 delegate, 120 delegate difference that we have in our CBS News poll to swing over to Reagan. Our last delegate count, which came in just a couple of hours ago, now accounts for all but 2 of the delegates to this convention. 1,189 now for President Ford and 1,068 for Reagan. 2 undetermined.
Citizen, the state of North Carolina, to second the nomination.
John Rhodes is going ahead and calling on Senator Helms for his talk and hoping that that may silence the crowd.
I recognize the very distinguished Jesse Helms of North Carolina. And will you please be quiet so you can hear Senator Helms speak? Senator Helms.
Demonstration, whether intended to do so or not, is having the effect and has had the effect of pushing the Ford nomination and the demonstration for Ford way off of prime television time in the eastern states. That television prime time ended about 12 minutes ago at 11 o'clock Eastern time. This is now what is called marginal time or D time or whatever they do call it. Anyway, it's not prime time. Dan Rather is in the middle of probably the loudest particular state delegation, the Texas delegation. Dan?
Well, Walter, I think if there's any one delegation that epitomizes this convention, at least for the Reagan forces, it has to be the Texas delegation. Solidly for Reagan, have been from the day they got here, absolutely committed, 3 deep to Reagan, not going to change under any circumstances. They've had themselves a terrific time, but they're really not bitter or frustrated. Now, they've been down here jitterbugging, singing. They've been leading this very long demonstration, and among them, Michael Halbooty, who is probably one of the best fundraisers that Ronald Reagan has had, particularly among oil men. Michael Halbooty, it's all over for you, isn't it? In real terms, Reagan's lost it.
Well, of course, we haven't voted yet.
No, but he's out of it, and you know it, and I know it.
Well, it looks bad, but still, on the other hand, well, I hope a miracle will happen.
Now, if a miracle doesn't happen, you were telling me earlier, you thought that John Sears made at least 2 critical mistakes. What were those mistakes that you were talking about, what might have been?
I think that the first mistake, which I would like to call a blunder, you know, I can forgive a man for a mistake, but it's hard for me to forgive a man for a blunder. And I think that he made the greatest blunder, political blunder of the 20th century when he recommended Dwight to the fore to Reagan that early. Reagan couldn't have had anybody until after he was nominated.
And what was the second blunder?
And the second one, when he made us vote on that situation last night, C-16, because that was a test vote. There was a lot of uncommitted delegates that would have probably voted for Reagan tonight. But they didn't like that C-16, and they didn't want any part of it. Consequently, they voted against it, and by voting against it, they voted for Ford, and they'll probably stick with Ford tonight.
But you're having a good time anyway.
Sure, I'm having a good time, but in any event, I'm a Republican, and whoever wins, we got to go.
Walter?
Okay, Dan, those Texans held their own rally outside this hall a little earlier tonight. They had expected to get... lady lost her sign. Nelson Rockefeller didn't even take it away from her. The Texans met outside the hall here to have a rally. They expected a band to show up, which didn't apparently, but they went ahead and held the rally anyway. In a huge football-type huddle, they sang Eyes of Texas, raised Cain outside the hall before marching in the body. They've got a neat little gimmick going in the hall earlier, they did, before this long demonstration began. Their delegates down on the floor and their alternates up in the first tier of seats alternately cheer, returning one another's cheers, best of football style. It is a very noisy delegation, but as Dan says, apparently a very happy one. Morton Dean is down there with Vice President Rockefeller. Morton, has the Vice President taken any Reagan signs out of this demonstration?
Mr. Vice President, could you stand up? He's just offered me some popcorn that he's been eating here, and he's been pelted by confetti and surrounded by signs that say, "Rocky, don't steal my sign," which relates to an incident yesterday when Mr. Rockefeller allegedly pulled down a sign and got into a little bit of a shouting match. What is that, Mr. Vice President, or shouldn't I ask?
This is beer.
Beer?
From a Reagan delegate in North Carolina. One of my friends from last night brought it to me.
Well, that must mean that you've made up after what happened down here last night. What do you make? Have you ever seen anything quite like this? You've been going to conventions from...
I think they're going to get worn out.
They're also forcing Mr. Ford to put over his nominating speeches into time that is not exactly prime television time. You think that matters?
The important thing is that he got the nomination. The rest is unimportant.
And there's no question in anyone's mind that that is going to happen tonight.
Well, as I said all afternoon whenever I was asked, this is a time one has to be very careful.
Why is that?
Well, because you never know. See, now, nobody knew what was going to happen tonight. So that you can expect any kind of trick. And therefore, all of the Ford supporters are going to be on their toes. And this is all, you know, exciting and wonderful. But the thing that counts is the nomination itself.
I must quote my colleague Roger Mudd, who said, perhaps this is the ultimate John Sears trick. They're not going to let you people vote.
Well, he underestimates our patience and determination.
Okay, Governor, it looks as if, or I keep calling you Governor, but you were Governor longer than your Vice President. Okay.
My security blanket.
Nelson Rockefeller. Walter, good to see you. Well, I don't suppose there's any chance, no, there isn't any chance really, that you could ever tire out an entire half of a convention and get some of them to go home and leave empty seats when the balloting began. That's one reason they have alternates, of course. For every delegate, there is an alternate, and obviously that tactic could just never really work. Convention sessions have lasted a lot longer than this one is going to last, even if the Reagan people keep this up half the night. We had a session in 1952, I think it was, at the Democratic Convention that went, I don't know, we were on the air 16 hours. I don't remember whether the demonstration actually lasted, whether the convention session actually lasted that long, but it did last into the wee hours of the morning. Maybe this one is going to do the same thing. This particular demonstration has been going on now for over 35 minutes. It was supposed to have been cut short at 15, but you see that the convention managers have no control over this Reagan crowd here in Kemper Arena in Kansas City. The Republican National Convention coverage by CBS News will resume after this message.
Posturepedic, designed in cooperation with leading orthopedic surgeons for no morning backache from sleeping on a too soft mattress. Sealy Posturepedic. Invest in something your back can feel good about every morning.
Hi, here's a great new drink for these hot summer days. The new Spinata Julep. It's icy, refreshing, and easy to make. Start with my favorite wine, Spinata. Mix 1 part frozen lemonade with 4 parts Spinata. Pour over lots of crushed ice. Add a lemon slice. Delicious. Everybody loves a cool, refreshing drink, and everybody will love the Spinata Julep. So stock up on lots of Spinata and try the new Spinata Julep.
Take a look at someone who takes Geritol.
I've got a job, a husband, children, and grandchildren. That makes for a pretty full life, so I have to take care of my health. That's why I make sure I get enough rest and exercise and take Geritol.
Geritol, to be sure you get enough iron, more than twice the iron of any ordinary supplement, and some very important vitamins. Take a look at who takes Geritol.
Geritol every day.
Shouldn't you?
Most small cars give you good mileage and low price. But when it comes to hills, how do they make the grade? According to tests certified by the United States Auto Club, one small car, Ford's Pinto Pony, even with its road-hugging weight, climbed hills faster than Chevette, faster than Toyota Corolla, and faster than Datsun B210. Yet even with the power to face up to hills, Pinto Pony still gets great mileage ratings. This kind of performance helps make Pinto the best-selling small car in America at your Ford dealer.
Well, it seems that political convention demonstrations have some kind of a life of their own. Unfortunately, perhaps, in some cases, it's too long a life. At any rate, they're very difficult things to cover. No yardage is gained. The ball isn't passed from one person to another. No sides change. They're just out there doing their thing. There's an interesting story, incidentally, tonight we might report, while we seem to have more time than we would like. The Children's Express, it's a newspaper with a staff of 13, aged 9 to 16, is going to press, we're told tonight, with a report that Senator Baker will be President Ford's running mate. Now, you better not laugh over that report, because if you remember, that's the same bunch of kids who scooped everybody at the Democratic National Convention in New York last month by naming Senator Mondale as Governor Carter's running mate 3 days before Governor Carter revealed that name to the rest of us. They said they put that together by the deductive methods after talking to the children of a lot of people involved, a lot of political leaders. One of the facts that they put together in their deduction was that when Senator Muskie went down to see Governor Carter at Plains, Georgia, to talk about the vice presidency, that the good senator from Maine left Plains quite angry because it seemed that Governor Carter talked not about Muskie, but about Mondale during their whole visit. That was their principal fact they used. So maybe the Children's Express has something, and Howard Baker is the man. That wouldn't be quite such a surprise here, perhaps, as the Mondale selection was, because Baker is the odds-on favorite around Kansas City, I think, tonight, among the Republican delegates as the man who Ford will select. Not necessarily their favorite for the job, but the odds-on betting favorite of the one who will be picked. The Reagan floor leaders, identified by their green hats, are still working the floor up to the last minute. Leslie Stahl has a report for us.
Walter, I'm standing here with Michael Hughes, who is more or less acting as a cheerleader here on the floor. There are some charges, Mike, that this whole thing is being perpetuated purposely to keep the nomination off primetime television. Is there any truth to that?
I haven't heard a single thing about that, to tell you the truth.
Well, you've been a cheerleader, and this demonstration was only supposed to last 15 minutes. I saw you marching groups of people around the floor. Why are you perpetuating this? Why is it going on so long?
So I want Governor Reagan to be our next president. I think if we might be able to convince some delegates to switch for me by a long demonstration.
Do you have a central organizer who's telling you to keep this up?
No, we don't have anybody calling the people on the floor. We have a few walkie-talkies around, but I don't know where they are.
Has anybody told you to try and calm the crowd down?
No. Why should we? We love it.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Walter.
Thank you, Leslie. So it sounds as if the Reagan people don't intend to cease this demonstration, although it has been going on for almost 40 minutes now. There was supposed to be 15. Mike Wallace is with a well-known Reagan delegate who, I gather, Mike, has had enough of these demonstrations?
Walter, I'm with a Reagan delegate from California. You know him well. His name is Pat Boone, and he understands all about prime time. But I think that Pat Boone thinks that the thing has gone on long enough. Is that accurate?
I thought that about a half an hour ago, Mike.
But what is the point? Now, look, you're a Reagan man. You're a California delegate.
That's right. I worked very hard, yeah.
And yet, you're against this...
Yeah, I don't think this makes any sense because, you know, it's fine. The big display of enthusiasm, that's one thing, but now I think we're postponing the inevitable, and that may be part of what the problem is. I think a lot of folks are not too sure of the outcome, and they're sort of wanting to postpone it, put it off. You know, it's our last hurrah, really. I don't feel that it is. I have a sort of a cautious optimism about the vote, and I want to get on with it. We got real business to do at the convention, and I think we're just sort of, well, it's like people crowding into a phone booth or a Volkswagen or swallowing goldfish. It's just, it's gone beyond any kind of sensible limit.
The suggestion is made, Pat, that what people have in mind in the Reagan organization is keep it going past prime time so that the Ford demonstrations and the Ford nomination speeches and so forth will go on 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast.
Well, I hope that's not true. I mean, I hope that this is not a planned thing. I really hope it's not, because it works against the Republican Party. It works against the American people, I think, just because the people want to know, they want to see, and I don't want them to turn off and watch a late movie.
Yeah. Even if it's one of yours.
Even if it's one of mine.
Why don't you just go on up the stairs? Nancy Reagan is sitting up there, and tell her to talk to her husband.
I don't think she's in touch with him right now. I've seen a lot of our floor leaders really trying to get everybody to sit down. I think a lot of this really was a spontaneous thing on the part of delegates who are probably here for the first and they sense perhaps only time in their lives, and they're just wanting to prolong it.
It does begin to look as though at least your delegation is beginning to sit down, Pat.
Jesse Helms has been trying to speak for a long time to second the nomination, and I've been suggesting that we sit down, but every time I sit down, I get hit in the head with a sign and dumped confetti on, and I just don't think it's accomplishing anything.
All right, Pat, I'm going to let you sit down.
Okay.
And Walter, you sitting down?
Mike, you know that Jesse Helms is starting his speech. We're going to listen. He's going to start regardless.
To trust them, let me mention only briefly a friend of mine who offers far better advice advice that has endured the callous aberrations of man for 2,000 years. My friend's name is Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and his advice is that we place our trust in God and not in politicians. To lift our eyes above selfish and petty personal ambitions, and that we dedicate ourselves to total resistance to those at home and abroad who would discard the very meaning of the miracle of America and who would allow tyranny to march forward under the flag of compromised principle. Now, I, for one, am proud that the United States Senate voted unanimously to confer honorary U.S. citizenship upon Alexander Solzhenitsyn. This was done in recognition of this inspiring man who unhesitatingly put his life on the line to warn all the rest of us about the brutal oppression of communism. Now, my fellow Republicans, I am ashamed that the Judiciary Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives under Democrat Chairman Peter Rodino has deliberately stalled the proposal to pay America's respects to this great citizen of the world. When Solzhenitsyn visited me in Washington last year, he said, "Senator, cannot your people perceive the advancing tide of communism? Can they not somehow be led to act before it is too late?" Now, ladies and gentlemen, history will remind future generations that welcoming the wisdom of just one Solzhenitsyn would have been far more important to the survival of freedom in the world than a 1,000-mile procession of soccer players, monarchs, diplomats, politicians, and entertainers who seem unwilling to understand the threat of totalitarianism, let alone try to restrain it. Now, logic tells us now, this night, that we will ignore the warnings of Solzhenitsyn at our own peril and at the peril of generations to come. Now, I invite you to respond to Solzhenitsyn's question, Solzhenitsyn's challenge. Remember, he asked, can the American people not somehow be led to act before it is too late? And that is the message that Ronald Reagan has been taking to this nation for the past year. As Ronald Reagan has done, we now must prayerfully and seriously confront specific issues. I ask you, are we really willing to give away the Panama Canal? Do Americans want a national defense system that falls short of being number one in the world? Are Americans willing to stake their future security on a nuclear arms treaty that doesn't require on-site inspection? As a matter of fact, have the Soviets ever kept their word? Is America really willing to slam the door on freedom for the captive nations as was done at Helsinki? Is America willing to sell her Chinese friends on Taiwan down the river just to curry favor with the communists in Peking? And how about the decent, hard-working people of this nation, those who daily pray for the restoration of morality and personal responsibility? Will we tonight ignore their yearning for a genuine spiritual rebirth all across this land? Are we unwilling to be a political party that has the courage to speak to and for the American people in forthright, precise terms? All right. You've given me your answers. Now let the American people have a choice. so that they can give their answers to these vital questions. In this year of political rhetoric and empty promises emanating from Plains, Georgia, there is one distinguished leader who has stepped forward to talk sense courageously and honestly and forthrightly to the American people. You know who he is, and I invite you to join me in seconding his nomination, an able, courageous, dedicated American, Ronald Reagan. Thank you very much.
These Reagan supporters seem unquestionable. They had a 21-minute demonstration when Reagan's name was first mentioned in the balloting earlier this evening. Then a 44-minute demonstration after the name was officially placed before the convention by Senator Paul Laxalt. And now here they go again. And John Rhodes is trying again to get them to order. Eric Severide, Bill Moyers. Got some comments on that Helm speech?
Well, it's an effort, I take it, to stir up a little more emotion, see if they can stampede a few people away from the Ford column. If this prolonged demonstration through what we call prime time is a Reagan ploy, I must say I would think it'd be rather counterproductive. It's more apt to stir resentment now than anything else. I don't know, Bill, do you think foreign policy, which Helms is trying to make a big issue here, is going to be a big issue this year? I'm not so sure it is.
I don't think it will be unless something untoward, like another war in the Middle East or some kind of Soviet move that is unforeseen at the moment would happen between now and November. It is an issue with many of these people because they see the world as closing around them, the world that they'd like to protect being besieged by hostile ideologies and forces, and they think the only cure for that is a very tough stand. There are a lot of people out there like Jesse Helms, who's an old television newscaster from North Carolina, who's a very effective speaker.
Think he's up in life or down?
Well, there may be hope for all of us. The dangerous part of it, it seems to me, is that if those people could put it to a vote, they clearly vote for what's called nuclear superiority in our defense posture, and that's, as you were saying last night at dinner, one of the most dangerous concepts around right now, because it would put the Soviets, make them nervous.
Yeah, the way they throw around these denunciations of détente and these demands for clear, outright, unmistakable military superiority does make one nervous. This is a very dangerous business. The idea is to have a balance so that neither side will get frightened and strike. That's one point about the whole thing. It's obvious you don't have the old Republican division. It's not isolationism versus internationalism. It's two kinds of internationalism here. They want power, but they object to Kissinger's pure power diplomacy. They want an infusion of righteousness in it, the old-fashioned American sense of what's right and wrong. Pretty hard to conduct foreign policy on that basis.
One of the fascinating aspects of it is that for the first time in quite a while, the United States foreign policy is remarkably free of bellicosity and belligerence, and to some extent, Gerald Ford's willingness to acquiesce in the congressional decision against Angola and Vietnam has contributed to that. Gerald Ford is not himself a warmonger, and he's conducted a foreign policy with Kissinger that is free of the old Cold Warriorism that a lot of these people still would like to return.
As some of the old rhetoric, this passionate concern about communism as an ism, not just concern about Soviet power. It's a fundamental matter of morality of faith with them.
Don't you think, however, that it goes beyond the question of pure defense into national pride? These people feel that the United States has been kicked around lately. We lost the war in Vietnam. We signed that Helsinki Agreement, which to them symbolized our accepting the Soviet hegemony in Eastern Europe. They saw that we were frustrated in Angola. The desire to go in there. They really feel they're trying to assert a kind of I'm the biggest boy on the block attitude.
You get the feel they like to punch somebody in the nose to feel better. That's why they felt so good about that ship business, the Mayaguez or whatever it was. And that's why they feel tough about Panama. You might have had a clear-cut division here, an issue on this foreign policy plank if they'd put in an amendment saying let's stop all negotiations over Panama. It's ours. As Reagan says, we bought it, we paid for it, it's ours. But we didn't get that. So this whole thing is fuzzed up, and I don't see where they go with this plank to make much headway for either side.
CBS did a poll, Eric, in which we asked the question: if you could choose between a president who would offer specific programs to solve problems, or a president who would restore moral values to the country, which would you choose? 54% of the delegates who are in this hall said they would choose a president who would put moral values first. That's the sentiment that's at work out there, even if it comes out in a belligerent and dangerous way.
On the domestic scene and on the world scene. Now back to Walter Cronkite.
Speaking right now, the last speech seconding Ronald Reagan is Dr. Gloria Toot of New York. She was the former Assistant Secretary for Equal Opportunity in the Housing Development Administration.
A significant one, for we have the responsibility to nominate a candidate who not only represents the ideology of our party, but who has the ability to effectively use every communication, every tool to convey that ideology and be elected in November. Have the power to raise the flag around which the majority of Americans, regardless of party, truly wish to rally. We have the man unique in his freedom from political bosses and congressional cronies. Among candidates, because in his time in office, he showed us he has the formula and the strength to make government once more the servant of the people. Ronald Reagan represents an opportunity to match public mood and private man. Public view that is predominant in America today. Only his bandwagon can overtake the Carter lead. Ronald Reagan must wear our banner. And forge solutions for the varied and complex needs of our nation. I proudly second the nomination of Ronald Reagan.
Dr. Toot, an attorney in New York, was an uncommitted delegate, elected uncommitted from New York State to New York City. Just yesterday, she switched to Reagan, made her declaration, and was introduced by Reagan at a hastily called news conference, one of 4 or 5 delegates delegates he was able to claim yesterday from the uncommitted column.
Shall we get on with the business of the convention?
So there's another demonstration now for Reagan. Ronald Reagan's nominator and campaign manager, Senator Paul Laxalt, is with Roger Mudd. Roger?
Senator, knowing what you know about the mood in this convention hall, what do you think will happen, assuming that Reagan loses tonight? What do you think would happen tomorrow on the vice presidential nomination?
I can't speak for the president, of course, but I've sensed all day long and people coming to me that you have all the seeds here of a draft Reagan movement for vice president, and I don't know whether it can be contained or not, frankly. I'm not conceding for a moment that we've lost this one. Yeah, but it is uphill, understandably. It's going to depend how the Northeast goes.
What have you told Governor Reagan about the situation here and the feeling in the hall?
I talked to him just before I made my speech, and he wanted me to indicate again clearly to whoever I talked to that he absolutely wouldn't be available for the vice presidency. But I did tell him at the time that there might not be any containing this convention because I sense a strong, strong feeling for him and the strongest spirit I've ever seen in a convention.
And then what did he say to that?
He said it wouldn't make any difference.
It's still no go.
Right.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Senator.
you, Roger.
All right.
Now Governor Milliken, William Milliken of Michigan, President Ford's home state, is about to make the nominating speech for Gerald Ford.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I must say if what we have seen here tonight is any indication of the spirit of the Republican Party, we will do very well in November of 1976.
See Nancy Reagan leaving the hall as Betty Ford, who was up in one of the glass enclosed boxes, comes back to the public seats.
Ladies and gentlemen, two years ago, a man from Michigan was called forward by circumstances to lead this nation. I am here tonight to urge that he now be called forward by this convention to be our nominee to retain the high position he has so effectively held and to lead a resurgent America. He already has reestablished our leadership, revived our economy, and restored our honor. He brought strength in time of crisis, order in a time of chaos,
faced with one of our nation's greatest challenges, he responded with wisdom, fairness, compassion, courtesy, and integrity. How fitting it is in this bicentennial year that Republicans should have the opportunity to offer to the people a leader who has already done so much to restore faith in the world's oldest constitutional democracy. That man is President Ford. He has demonstrated to all of the world that government can be conducted openly, honestly, and successfully. He has shown that the historic American principle of government by the consent of the governed is workable in this modern age of incredibly complex problems. Millions of Americans who are watching us tonight and those who will be watching our candidate in the weeks ahead know that there are no simple and superficial solutions to these problems. I suspect that they know, or soon will, that solutions will not come from the maybe I will, maybe I won't candidate of the other party. They know it was President Ford who took charge of a paralyzed government and quickly got it moving again. They know it is the president who is fighting the excessive spending of the congressional majority which has controlled the federal budget for the last 20 years. They know it is President Ford who is leading this nation to an economic recovery that many believed would take years to accomplish. That inflation and unemployment have been reduced, and that at long last, the national recession is ending. They know that President Ford is committed to advancing the cause of social justice and equality for all Americans. They know that we are not at war abroad and that we are at peace with ourselves at home. President Ford has united this country, and as our candidate, he will unite this party. We have been through a vigorous and I believe essentially healthy primary campaign. We have seen that the Republican Party is, as it should be, a party that embraces a wide spectrum of thought, and in this we reflect America. We can now best serve America by keeping President Ford right where he is. we want a candidate who can wage an affirmative campaign and win. The performance of President Ford speaks far more eloquently of the compelling need for this convention to nominate him than any words from me. This nation awaits our decision. Let us answer that we intend to lead from strength. Let us give Gerald Ford the nomination that will unite the Republican Party and return him to office. Let us help him finish what he has begun. He first became president without our nomination and without the American mandate. Now he has earned both. So that we may give him our nomination, so that the nation may give him its mandate, I do now exercise the honor and the privilege of placing in nomination for the presidency of the United States of America the name of Gerald R. Ford.
Balloons for Nixon in 72, beach balls for Ford in 76. Our word is that the word has been passed by the Ford organizers that this demonstration will last just 15 minutes, the allotted time. Well, don't hold your breath. We'll wait and see how that one comes out. We do expect to see a little bit later a videotape of President Ford watching this demonstration. We did get television cameras in as AP, UPI, and other reporters were permitted into the Ford suite at the Crown Center Hotel. The video tape recording machinery was allowed in there too, but not live cameras as were at the Reagan quarters. You saw there the former governor of Texas, former Secretary of Navy under his great friend Lyndon Johnson while he was still a Democrat, as well Connally was still a Democrat, and then having switched to a Republican, the Secretary of Treasury under Nixon. Maybe that John Connally had some influence in this convention. It was the day after, the morning after, just a few hours after Governor Reagan announced that Richard Stryker of Pennsylvania would be his running mate, that Connally appeared in Washington at the side of President Ford to announce that he was endorsing Ford. Up to that time, he had withheld his endorsement. Connally, however, was not influential in swinging Texas to Ford earlier before he made his own commitment, and Texas went solidly for Nixon. So Governor Connally finds himself out of step with his own Texas delegation, and he's not a delegate himself here, although he did address the convention last night. The Republican National Convention coverage by CBS News will resume after this message.
It's adored in Bora Bora. It's the pet of all Peru.
It rates great in Guacamora.
It's the toast of Timbuktu.
It's the hit of all New Haven.
A hero in Quebec. The whole world loves world money. Bank America traveler's checks.
Paul Covey, wine editor, Sphere magazine. Hearty Burgundy receives well-deserved recognition from both layman and expert. Roy Andries de Groot, wine editor, Esquire magazine, says, I have never found any wine to equal the combination of quality and value. Robert Lawrence Balzer, Holiday magazine. Gallo Hearty Burgundy is the greatest value in red wine in America. Judge it yourself, the best of the Burgundies. Gallo, California, Hearty Burgundy.
Oh, hello there. This is my personal friend, Fred. Fred's new at Ford Motor Company. We got him from Space Technology. And he's one of the most advanced, sophisticated brains there is for building our cars better. Fred's brain absorbs complicated car testing data, analyzes it, and comes up with the right answer in seconds. When design engineers asked Fred to help solve a problem with excess body vibrations, see these wiggly lines here? They're body vibrations magnified. Fred located the problem, and the engineers eliminated it. Since old Fred came to Ford, he's been working 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, with no complaints. He's so great at helping build our cars better, we're getting another unit to help Fred, and her name is Mary. Surprise.
This is CBS.
Now you can paint any surface at all, even in a tuxedo, quickly, cleanly, and easily with the amazing Miracle Painter. Tackle any paint job at all and get professional results with no drip, no mess, and no roller spray. Watch how ineffective a brush can be. Now the Miracle Painter. You get total coverage, every crack and groove filled quickly and easily, almost unbelievably. Here's the Miracle Painting surface, 10 times the coverage. Watch out, that's a freshly dipped brush. Now the Miracle Painter. No spray, no drip, and no mess. You can actually paint without a drop cloth. Use this handy adapter for painting walls and ceilings and our mini painter for tight spots. It's the quickest, cleanest, and easiest way you'll ever paint. You get this complete Miracle Painting Kit for only $9.95. Order now.
For a quick delivery, call 213-749-4441 or save COD charges. Send $9.95 to Miracle Painter, Box 15955, Los Angeles, California. Millions have been sold in Europe, not sold in any stores.
KNXT, Los Angeles.
CBS News continues its special report, Campaign 76. Tonight, the fourth session of the Republican National Convention from the Kemper Arena in Kansas City. This portion sponsored by the people of Ford Motor Company on behalf of Ford and Lincoln Mercury dealers. Ford wants to be your car company. Now here again is Walter Cronkite.
The governor of Gerald Ford's home state of Michigan, Governor Griffin, has placed his name in nomination, and if the Ford people really stick to their intention to keep their demonstration to 15 minutes, which would be about a fourth as long as the Reagan people took, well, they're about halfway through it at this point. We might tell you, as this demonstration continues, what we'll be doing when the time for polling comes. And that won't be very long from now, assuming this demonstration is over in another 7 or 8 or 9 minutes. At that time, the forward seconding speeches are not going to be speeches. Some 19 persons are going to stand up at their delegation seats and simply second the nomination for their state and therefore their delegation. That should move fairly rapidly. And then we'll get to the polling, the moment for which these delegates have all come to this arena in Kansas City. Now, CBS News has polled every one of the 2,259 Republican delegates for their presidential preferences. Last night, on the test vote over the rules change, our delegate count turned out to be incredibly accurate, almost down to the vote. While a few more delegates who were listed as uncommitted have made their commitment today, they don't seriously change the total or the balance in any given delegation. Most of them have gone over toward Ford. Our figures now show 1,189 for Ford, 1,068 for Reagan, a margin of 121 votes for Ford. That's according to our polls, and our polls, as I say, have been so accurate. So, during this balloting, we're going to let you listen to the count unfold, and we'll interrupt only if the total announced for any state is a marked change from our poll. Now, two things should be noted in that. Because the way the Reagan and Ford states divide alphabetically, on the running total of votes cast, Reagan will appear to be ahead probably right up to the New York delegation's vote. This lead will be wiped out as New York and then ensuing Ford states cast their votes. The other thing to remember is that there are states which, because of peculiarities in the selection of their delegates and the laws that bind them, will cast votes for or against Ford or Reagan that do not correspond with the real preference of the delegates. These are so-called Trojan horse delegates. You've heard that phrase mentioned in this convention coverage. That, however, has been calculated in our delegate poll figures. Those states, incidentally, are Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Nevada, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Now, just to repeat that very briefly, we're going to just let that delegate count, the polling, just run. We won't interrupt it unless there is an indicated quite important change in a delegation from what we anticipate it to be. And our anticipation on our polling that has been done so beautifully by Warren Matofsky and Mr. Plissner and their staff of delegate counters, well, that count is so accurate and has proved so accurate last night that we just know that by the time we get to a majority, it's going to have fallen for President Ford. However, if there is an indication that that's not the case, we'll let you know, of course, as the polling takes place state by state. Despite the noise in this hall as this Ford demonstration goes on, and it doesn't seem to be quite as raucous as the Reagan demonstration, but probably equally enthusiastic, not everyone is involved in the demonstration. Leslie Stahl is with the Louisiana delegation, for instance.
As you can see, these two Louisiana delegates, very strong Reagan supporters, are just sitting here reading the paper. I haven't interrupted them yet to tell them what I'm about to do, which is I'm going to ask them how strongly they feel about Reagan and whether they can support Ford. Let me come into the picture now. Could I have your name, please? Could I have your name? Charlene Patrick. I'd like to know if, once this is over and if Ford is the nominee, whether you could support him for president.
Well, what's the answer? Well, the answer is that I will work for whoever is running against Jimmy Carter.
And do you think that that's true of the Louisiana delegation as well?
WFAA, Dallas, Fort Worth.
Newsbreak, Charles Osgood on the CBS radio network. About the Colorado floods after this.
If you've got an eye for cars, maybe you've already seen the impertinent little sport coupe making its mark around town these days. It's called Sunbird, and it's made in America by Pontiac. But despite its rather modest origins, it has a habit of acting like an import priced 3 times higher. An understandable impertinence, we suppose, since Sunbird is about the size of a BMW, with a wheelbase only 1/10 of an inch longer than a Mercedes 450 SLs. And although it comes with a 4, it's available with a V6 that delivers the same torque or pulling power as a Maserati V6, while turning 1,000 fewer revolutions. You can order a Sunbird with a 5-speed manual or an automatic, and some models may still be available with a free transmission offer. But the question remains, how little does a Sunbird cost? We're beginning to think that's a matter best kept between you and your Pontiac dealer. What the higher-priced imports don't know won't hurt them.
Saturday night, it became clear that a lot of water might be funneling through the Big Thompson Canyon, and officers tried to get the campers out of there.
They're hard to move. They're hard to rouse. They got their charcoal going. They don't want to leave. You can talk to them. They want to know how deep the water is going to be. You don't have time to talk, so you go to the next group. And for that reason, the scared ones got out, the others stayed.
Raymond Lee was driving from the National Park to Loveland.
Coming down from Estes Park, and the road gave away from us, in front of us. We turned around, tried to get out. The road gave away that way. So we stranded right there, and our car's still sitting there.
Many of the casualties were motorists.
Some of them, I think, might have been sleeping in their cars, and they might have tried to get to higher ground, and they just didn't make it. The water was so swift that it just carried the cars and trucks and the house trailers and stuff right into the deep water.
I hung on to the log first. You know, it's slippery, and I was slipping off, and finally I saw like a spare tire, so I grabbed onto that rim and everything was inflated, and I hung on to that. And I really think that saved me. I really lost all sense of direction and everything. It was just like I was floating down through a forest. I couldn't even grab onto the trees. I was going so fast.
Ed Swan had been on his way home.
A quarter way home, it started raining and hailing. You know, I just thought it was a bad storm. I had the radio on, and I didn't hear anything about flash floods. So I came the back way home. There's one bridge I was going to cross. It was dry when I got there. Then I noticed a couple inches of water going over the top of it, and I figured, what the heck, you know, the blazer will go right through it. So I just started over, and then about 4 foot of water hit the side. You know, I guess I just must have been at the beginning of the waves coming down. And it pushed me right off the bridge. And, well, the truck was underwater, and I was underwater, and all of a sudden, you know, I had to hold my breath, and I couldn't open the door or anything, so I just socked the window out and got out somehow.
Joe Carter has a little house in the canyon.
My daughter heard some screams, and me and neighbor Clifford Moore went out in the water and got the one girl out. And as we come back up here, we was talking to her, and she said there were 5 in the car. And in the meantime, we found another one in the middle of the river right here, and later the search and rescue got her out. And we went back looking for the others, and we found one body last night, and they found another body this morning, a girl, and one of the other girls is still missing, of the 5.
Cecilia Grimes' cabin was underwater in no time.
The only thing that saved us was our mantle in our fireplace, and we hung on to that, and the water was clear up to here, and we just hung on to that, put the dog up on the mantle, and there were two ladies, and we just hung on to that till somebody came and we walked to safety.
Gary Watts knows that his little son has drowned.
We were inside, and when it went, the whole cabin just completely, just like a Tinker toy, just disintegrated. We were down under the water, and next thing I knew, I was in the water, but I was able to walk out. The wife and I and little girl and baby were okay.
What kind of condition is everybody in?
Pretty good, really, except Debbie's got a rather bad cut on her arm that they're having to operate on.
And how about your children?
They're fine, except for Aaron.
And now, this message.
Foreign car drivers, has this ever happened to you?
A muffler job. Look, we got a lot of important work here.
But gee, Hugo, I bought my car here.
Well, maybe I could squeeze you in on the 5th.
Oh, great.
Of January.
January?
Foreign car drivers, you don't have to take it anymore. Now Midas gives foreign cars the same kind of service we've been giving American cars for 20 years. So you're usually in and out in 30 minutes without an appointment. Because at Midas, we're foreign car specialists. We have to do a better job.
Yes?
Excuse me for being nosy, but is that mold and mildew I smell in your bathroom?
Yes, it is, and I clean it every day.
Not really. To get a place really clean, use Lysol brand disinfectant.
Lysol?
Yes, Lysol brand disinfectant kills household germs on surfaces where they grow, including germs that cause odors.
Lysol brand disinfectant.
Mm-hmm.
That brown bottle in the red and yellow box?
That's it. Just pour some in a bucket of water and start cleaning. The floor, tiles, fixtures.
No more moldy and mildewy odors here. Come back and be nosy again.
News break. Charles Osgood, CBS News.
Fred, baby, everybody's doing it. Doing what? Celebrating our country's bicentennial birthday, of course. What's that got to do with keeping your teeth clean? Plenty, that's what. We're celebrating the 200th year since we declared our independence as a nation. I hear you, man, but I don't track you. Well, figure it out yourself. One of the best ways to do this is to declare your independence from dental disease.
I track you now, Sid. That's right. Dental disease can be a big pain, and who needs that? I'm Dr. John Tabak, president of the American Society of Dentistry for Children. And ASDC is asking children everywhere throughout this wonderful land of ours to say Happy Birthday, USA, by brushing and flossing the plaque from their teeth. Plaque can lead to dental disease, and a happy, healthy nation must be free from that, too.
WFAA, Dallas, Fort Worth.
The CBS Radio Mystery Theater presents... Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Have you ever noticed, passing a man walking his dog in the street, how much they resemble each other? If you haven't, take a look next time. Somehow the leash becomes a sort of umbilical cord that establishes them as kin. I don't always find the same thing with women, perhaps because I don't always get as far as the other end of the leash. But men, it may be only my fancy. On the other hand, this fancy, in a way, is what this story is about.
Hey, whiskey boy, what's the matter? Oh, you, Bishop.
It's about time you got here, Bo.
I came as fast as I could. Never quite as quick as you, old long nose, always sniffing in the wind.
Chadsworth, what the devil's the matter with this flea-bitten hound?
Smarter than humans, the dog often is, I'm sorry to bring these tidings, but the squire is
not dead. My God, wouldn't you know that whiskey would be the first to know? Or would he? Who was with him last, Chad?
Mr. Bishop.
By heaven, Bishop, you'd better hope two things.
What, my loving brother?
That father died naturally and that you're not his sole heir.
And if I should be?
We'll take that up, brother, when we get to it.
Our mystery drama, Every Dog Has His Day, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Ian Martin and stars Court Benson. It is sponsored in part by Contac, the 12-hour cold capsule, and Buick Motor Division. I'll be back shortly with Act One.
The following is a test. Please answer all questions truthfully.
Question 1. Which of these do you like most? Rowboat, dentist, Opal Isuzu?
Question 2. If you and 3 friends wanted to take a nice trip, would you take turns carrying each other, take turns throwing each other, or buy an Opal Isuzu?
Question 3. Given a choice, would you attend a lecture on good posture, hurt your foot, or buy an Opal Isuzu?
If you answered Opal Isuzu to all 3, see your Buick Opal dealer and take a test drive. Otherwise, see someone else.
Of all times to get hemorrhoids, why?
Pregnancy is a major cause.
What helps?
Well, since you're expecting, ask your doctor before using any medication.
My sister used Preparation H.
For many women, Preparation H relieves occasional pain and itch for hours.
Sounds good.
Preparation H does more. Actually helps shrink swelling of hemorrhoidal tissue caused by inflammation.
Even better.
Preparation H helps shrink swelling of hemorrhoidal tissues.
Use only as directed.
Hey,
Are you the country doctor?
Yeah.
Well, I'm the United States of America, and I need help.
Okay. What do you want me to help you on?
Well, I've got 200 years of growing pains and 200 million people.
Where'd you hit the most?
In my heart, because that's where those 200 million people live. Do you understand that?
Yeah, because you're the United States of America.
Then what's wrong with me, doctor?
Well, maybe it's because all the bad people in your heart is what makes you sick.
Gee, that sounds serious.
Yeah, because if your heart doesn't work, then nothing works.
Well, how do I cure the bad people in my heart?
Well, you could tell them to be good to each other and to love each other. And then maybe you'll feel much better.
Well, God bless America. Please?
From the Franciscans, with love.
Old Rokesby Hall is long gone now. Even in the last century, or at least the latter half of it, the great Georgian mansion had fallen into ruin and decay. The broad latticed windows with their diamond-shaped panes broken, the cagework of the upper stories dirty and dilapidated. The somber, lifeless avenue that swept from the coach road under the giant elms to the hall itself, overgrown and choked with weeds. Before the Civil War, it had been one of Virginia's proudest landmarks, till the death of the old squire's wife.
You might say I came with the foundations of old Rokesby Hall. For on the death of his father, the squire left England behind him and took his new bride to the Americas and built this magnificent old house to welcome her here. Ah, those were the days. Never a one without the carriages passing by and the gentry leaving their cards. The balls, the hunting breakfasts, all the society of the New World I opened that front door for and welcomed in to meet and socialize with the squire and his lovely bride. But with her ladyship's death, it all changed. I remember the night she was buried as well as my own name.
Chadsworth, my light has gone out. Pour yourself a brandy and join me.
Oh, me, sir?
Oh, God's wounds, man, you're closer to me than all my family.
You have your sons?
My sons, neither of whom could quite break off their own affairs to mourn their mother's death. Bishop, since his province is the field of business, bartering, buying, and selling. And Beauregard too busy with wine, women, and nothing but debts, which I am heartily sick of paying. Pour that brandy, damn it. At least I won't drink alone.
Yes, very well, sir.
Now that the gout has hobbled me, Demi, if I've a friend left. Saving yourself an old whiskey. Best dog I ever had. The only one left now that I've put by the horses, whiskey boy. By my eyes, Chadsworth, he has more love and thought for me than either of those ungrateful pups I left. As of you. Oh, here's looking at you.
To your very good health, sir.
I doubt if I have much of that left.
Well, Squire Rokesby, what is it?
On the sideboard, little white pill.
Oh, you didn't tell me that Dr. Summers had prescribed for you. How many, sir?
Just one, and get me some more brandy.
No, Squire. You've had more than enough of that. Here's some water.
Water? The man wants to kill me.
Oh, the last thing I would do, sir.
No. Only two in the world I can trust. You, Chadsworth. My old boy there.
I didn't know that the master had been seeing a doctor, so I was relieved when the first of his sons, Mr. Bishop, the older one, turned up the next morning. I put the matter of calling the doctor in his hands, but the first person he called wasn't a doctor, but a lawyer, our nearest neighbor, Mr. William Tremaine.
Tremaine, don't try to push me over the edge yet. I'll hang on long enough to get a good long look at both those young jackanapes who can't wait to inherit Rokesby.
Bishop is here already, Sam, and anxious to see you.
Yes, I can imagine. But first he was careful to let my lawyer in, huh?
Now, Sam, you mustn't sell your son short. Give them a chance to present their own case.
Oh, of course, Mr. Lawyer. They shall have their chance. Is Bo there, too?
Why, no. We are not sure he's received our messages yet.
Not even the thought of being able to win your fair Antoinette was enough to coax that rascal back.
I cannot answer for my daughter. I'm not sure which of your sons engages her deepest regard.
Well, if Bishop is waiting, I suppose I should see him.
Sam, may I speak as an old friend?
Better speak as my lawyer. You insist on my making a will, right? Why?
A matter of form.
I don't take it ill that you have a deep interest in this, Tremaine. As long as we both can remember, it was supposed that your daughter would marry one or other of my sons. And you still feel that way?
You know that the joining of our two families is the strongest way in this land of savages to ensure that the best of the breed...
Spare me all that. What's important is which of my sons inherits how much and what, huh? That's what you'd like to have sewed up in a will.
As your lawyer, I feel it's what you should have sewed up in a will.
Well, I don't. Not till I take one good last measure of my sons. There isn't enough to leave for both. It has to be one or the other. The one who'll maintain Rokesby Hall as my wife. Loved it. For as long as anyone can hope.
Very well. Still, some sort of document.
All right. Draw up your documents. And when I meet and judge my sons again... and I shall enter the name of both. Or the one who best deserves it.
What the devil is the matter with that dog, Chadsworth?
Mr. Bishop, he misses his master. Being shut away from him, he dotes on the master, does old Whiskey.
Only wish he'd be a little less vocal about it.
Dogs are very strange, you know. Sometimes they have a sixth sense, like... maybe I'd better go into the squire.
Don't be ridiculous. My father's perfectly all right. He wanted to rest, and I saw him off to sleep.
You wouldn't think he might be failing, Mr. Bishop?
Nonsense. Nothing could kill that old devil. Gout, apoplexy, heart... He'd laugh them all off. He just asked me to have you witness this and settled off to sleep like a baby.
Oh, witness what, sir?
Well, his signature. You can see the ink isn't even dry.
What's the document, Mr. Bishop?
Heaven only knows. Anything from a rent, mortgage to his will. He scribbled his signature and said to have you witness it along with the housekeeper, Mrs. Armbruster.
A little out of order, wouldn't you say, sir?
I would, but then, since when has my father ever been either orderly or ordinary? Go wake him up and ask him if you want.
Oh, I wouldn't dream of it. He needs the rest.
Yeah. And sign this and get Mrs. Armbruster, too. He particularly wanted it in shape before my brother arrived.
Very well.
Oh, damn that hound. But go ahead, Chadsworth.
Yes, sir. I will, sir. I suppose I might have questioned things more, But the thing is, when you have spent a life in service, you don't normally. And it was the master's signature, which I knew well enough. So I wrote my own name and got Mrs. Armbruster to add her scrawl, little thinking that by doing so, I was setting a match to the fuse for the terrible series of explosions to come. Better I had paid attention to Whiskey's warning howls than to the smooth and easy way of Mr. Bishop Rokesby. For a storm was on the way in the person of his younger brother, Beauregard.
Well, it's about time you got here, Beauregard.
Well, the stagecoach was late, Mr. Tremaine. And it isn't that serious with the old boy, is it?
Would you care?
Well, of course I would, sir.
I'm glad to hear that. For my daughter's sake?
I guess I'm a little out of my depth, Mr. Tremaine.
Well, then let me get you back to shallow water so you can put your feet on the ground. Was there not a kind of understanding between Toinette and you?
Oh, yes, sir. Attendant upon my making my way and my fortune.
Which I take it you have not yet succeeded in doing.
Oh, I have great prospects, sir. Many connections and, well, frankly, a lot more debts than I can properly handle.
Well, at least you tell the truth. I'll answer in kind. If it weren't for Toinette's feelings, I wouldn't give a tinker's damn about you. If I had my way, I'd rather see her married to your brother.
To old Bish, that cold stick? Oh, not really, sir.
Now, don't you now really, sir, me. Your father is far from well. He may not recover from his last attacks. I hope for your sake he'll be conscious to give you a chance to renew an acquaintance which should never have been broken off.
Well, sir, if I'd had any idea the old man was...
If you had a brain in your head, you'd have stayed home to help him manage the property. But while you've been having your fling, your brother has had the good sense and the common decency to keep in touch with your father. Since the squire has been sick, he's been with him 24 hours a day. While it's taken you the better part of a week to bestir yourself and come home.
Mr. Tremaine, what are you trying to tell me?
I am your father's friend, his lawyer, and a prospective father-in-law to one of his sons.
One of us? Well, you can't seriously consider Bishop to...
Your brother has been paying considerable attention to Toinette. You may be surprised to discover how she has bloomed in your absence.
And you favor his suit?
For myself, quite frankly, yes. I have more faith in Bishop's future.
I didn't hear Mr. Beauregard come home. The insistent, mournful wail of the hound had sent me running to the squire's room, a dreadful premonition clutching at me. So that when the front door bell rang, for all I hurried with my heart in my mouth, it was Mr. Bishop who got to the door first. Whiskey was all over Mr. Beauregard in a wild kind of desperate greeting, whimpering and snuffling and licking at his hands. And when he saw Mr. Bishop...
Hey, Whiskey boy, what's the matter? Oh, you, Bishop.
It's about time you got here, Bo.
I came as fast as I could. Never quite as quick as you, old long nose, always sniffing in the wind.
Chadsworth, what the devil's the matter with this flea-bitten hound?
Smarter than humans, the dog often is, sir. I'm sorry to bring these tidings, but the squire is...
Not dead. My God, wouldn't you know that Whiskey would be the first to know? Oh, would he? Who was with him last, Chad?
Mr. Bishop.
By heaven, Bishop, you'd better hope two things.
What, my loving brother?
That father died naturally and that you are not his sole heir.
And if I should be?
We'll take that up, brother, when we get to it.
The two brothers face each other. The kind of raw hatred that can only be bred in family relationships, named and writhing between them. The dog is suddenly silent, his somber, brooding eyes measuring them both in turn. Now the brothers, Mr. Tremaine and Chadsby, go into the house. traversing the long hall and climbing the winding staircase to the squire's room. I will return with Act 2 in just a moment.
I love a good mystery, don't you? And one of the best I've read is The Black Tower by P.D. James. This is no mild English country house mystery. Oh, no, my friend, not this book. The Black Tower is a mystery chiller of the first rank. Commander Adam Dalgleish of Scotland Yard arrives at a prim nursing home on the English coast, only to find it has become a labyrinth of inhuman terror, lurid poison pen letters, and murder. A saintly man of God slain by an act of satanic evil, and the secret lies hidden in the strange, isolated building known as the Black Tower. Excitement builds page by page until Adam Dalgleish comes to the terrifying dramatic climax. With him, you will discover that the murderer is... in the last few chapters of the book, of course. Read it. The Black Tower. Available in paperback from Popular Library.
This is Sam Levinson. Somewhere a teenage girl in a school for the retarded doesn't remember what her parents look like. And somewhere a great-grandmother in a nursing home doesn't even bother to celebrate her 85th birthday. Now, multiply these people by many millions and you've become aware of the problem. And the problem is loneliness. Let me tell you about a new public service program called Voiceogram. The heart of the program is an exchange of tape-recorded messages between the patients and their families and friends. Actor Cliff Robertson and Harold Russell, chairman of the President's Committee for the Handicapped, and myself are lending their support on a nationwide basis. But to make it work, we need sympathetic volunteers who will visit patients and talk to them while their words are taped for their loved ones to hear and respond. Just give a little bit of your time and a lot of caring, and just write to Voiceogram. Box 127, Coscob, Connecticut, 06807.
When they came upon him in the bedroom, Squire Samuel Rokesby lay half fallen with the upper part of his body out of the great four-poster. His face was suffused with the livid blood of apoplexy, his hands crooked as if in some great battle against the angel of death. And what was most startling of all, his blue eyes wide, stark, and staring with a kind of terrible accusation. And his death was not an end, but a beginning.
Whiskey, poor old hound, was the first to announce the death. And outside of myself, as the next days passed, seemingly the only one to mourn the master's passing.
By heaven, I'll not suffer it. I'll take it to law. Though I ask you to let us discuss this calmly.
Calmly? Calmly, is it? When my father, his face black and his tongue out gasping for air, quite obviously had help in leaving this world?
That's quite an accusation.
Oh, I do heartily agree. Prove it, brother mine.
The proof is on the table there amongst us.
Your father's will?
My father called me in and signed this document, which proved to be his will. At the time, I didn't know what it was. It was sealed with his signet ring.
Naming you as sole heir.
As you see.
Without this will, we would share the inheritance. Isn't that true, Mr. Tremaine?
If your father had died intestate, yes. Since it doesn't apply, there's only one will which appears to be valid.
Are you satisfied, brother?
No. Will you listen to that? I swear by all that's holy, we might all be ashamed. The squire is dead, and there's only one who really mourns him. But I warn you one thing, Bishop, if it's the last thing I do, I'll make sure you don't profit from his death.
Bo?
Yes, Trinette. I wasn't sure you'd be here.
I got your message.
It seems my brother's has been more urgent during the time I've been absent.
I didn't come here to quarrel.
Well, no more did I. But what's all this my father tells me about Bishop and you?
The families are friends. How would you have me treat him?
Like the black snake he is. There are two Rokesbys left, my brother and myself. All right, Toinette, which do you choose?
I didn't think your message suggested that this was why I meet you.
What did you expect to talk about with a Rooksby? Love instead of hate?
I thought the first was all that lay between us.
And so did I, till I came home so tardy. You know that I've been disinherited?
Well, Yes.
But it makes no difference to us.
Oh, please. It's different now.
It isn't when I see you again, Toinette, and touch you.
You never wrote.
I never write anyone.
We thought you were never coming back.
We?
Bish and... Well, I mean, Daddy and I, and Daddy felt that...
That I wasn't worth the powder to blow me to hell.
You don't have to be so violent.
Why not? We're a violent family, Toinette. Oh, don't let my brother's cold, tight control blind you to what he really is. Not all the money in the world could bring you a moment's peace with him. That's why I made this tryst. To tell you that he murdered my father. And to ask you to run away with me before it's too late for all of us.
Oh, what are you saying? You can't believe that... Well, that Bishop killed you.
Of course I do. But prove it? That's something else again. So you won't come with me.
Oh, be fair, be reasonable. How can...
All right, forget it, Toinette. You've made your choice. I thought I owed you one last chance.
Where are you going?
If I can't have you or Rooksby, by heaven, neither will Bishop.
Bo, what are you going to do?
Put a bullet in my brother and then another in myself.
You're mad. You can't kill Bishop.
I will unless he backs down, but you and I are through. All right, get away, boy. Get away, Whiskey, or I'll take my riding crop. Do you... Whiskey, will you let go of the stirrup leather? Damn you, this horse is skittish enough without...
He's rearing. Bo, look out! Oh, no! Bo, are you all right?
No. My leg, my back, I think broken. Help.
He was in a bad way, the poor young master. His back was broken and his leg, and Lord only knows what damage to his innards from the horse stomping on him. For near a month he lay in a sort of half-world from all the morphine and laudanum for the pain, his wits wandering while his father was buried, and Master Bishop and Miss Antoinette announced their marriage. Mrs. Armbruster, the housekeeper, and I were his only nurses and only companions, save old Whiskey, who could not be kept out of the room, and an occasional visit from Squire Bishop.
Well, how's the living corpse today, Chatsworth?
Oh, about the same, sir. Although he does seem a little perkier.
That's dubious news. Oh, good Lord, what's that mangy hound doing in here?
We can't keep him out of here. Even with the doors and windows closed, he seems to be able to slip through some chink in the wall, so... Well, I don't know. But he's better here. He keeps him quiet like.
Look at him. Look at him curl his lip at me. I don't like the dog any better than he does me. I ought to have you take him to the stables and shoot him.
Oh, hush now, old boy. Oh, you wouldn't do that, would you, sir? He was your father's boon companion and friend.
Get him out of here, Chatsworth. I'd like to have a word with my brother.
Yes, very well, sir. Come on, Whiskey. Lad, come on, old boy. Don't make me drag you. Got to obey the new master, you know.
Get him out.
Yes, sir. I'm doing that. There we go. Come on, then. Come on.
He doesn't like you, Bishop. He has good taste.
So, you're back in the land of the living again, hmm?
No, I'm not sure. Halfway. Someplace halfway back from where I've been.
Hmm? Where have you been?
Oh, the other side of the curtain, perhaps. I talked to Father.
You what?
That scares you a little, doesn't it, Bishop?
Why should it?
Aren't you afraid he might have told me how he died?
How he died from apoplexy, congestion of the blood and heart. What else?
What my father told me. Would you like to hear?
Oh, I have no intention of listening to your delirium and your dreams.
Only you're going to, Bish. Not in my words, but in his own words. Our father's words. Your father's words.
No, Bishop. I must wait for Bo to come home. I promised Molly before she died that I would never let Rooksby Hall pass out of our family while I had any control over it. I want to lie beside her in the garden and keep it ours as long as it is humanly possible, or God be with it.
Father, you could trust me to see that it stayed in family hands. The family fortune would prosper.
I wonder, Bishop, we all worship different gods, and yours is money.
If you should die intestate and the inheritance is split between us, the house would have to be sold.
No!
Yes, face it, Father. One of us must be in charge. Trust me, I'll take care of Bo. But the purse strings should be in my hand. Here, I have pen and ink. Sign the will.
You seem very anxious to help me to the grave.
I am anxious to see your affairs in order before you enter it.
No, I don't trust you.
My God. You hold back any longer and I will help you to the grave. And make certain that Bo joins you there very shortly.
True colors at last, huh?
Make no mistake. I mean what I say.
And if I sign, you will keep the hall over and you will provide for Bo. See to it that the servants are home till they die. And my dog, man's best friend, they say, and at the last it has proved right. Whiskey. You will protect old Whiskey, too.
I promise. I promise anything. Only sign.
Very well. Give me the pen. You'll need witnesses, you know.
Give me the paper. Not to what I am about to do.
No, my time is not yet. Miss, no.
You took the pillow and held it over his face until you choked the life from our father.
Good Lord. Every word. Every syllable. How could you know?
I told you I'd been beyond the curtain. I talked with Father.
Well, you'll have no chance to tell anyone else. I'll take care of that now.
How will you do it? The same way you did with Father?
Yes. There's no way to trace it and no one will stop me. The dog. How did he get back in here?
It doesn't matter. What does matter is he's going to stop you.
No, by heaven. Let go off my sleeve, Whiskey. Let go.
I told you he'd stop you.
All right, only this time. Next time I'll have a gun. And I'll kill you both.
How did I know these things? Because Mr. Beauregard told me. And much, much more. Strange and hard to believe. And not of this world.
Curiouser and curiouser, as Alice said of Wonderland, are the turns and twists of this strange, brooding story of a house divided against itself. The disintegration of a family, a dead man, and a faithful dog. I'll return shortly with Act 3.
Do you have a taste for things that are a little out of the ordinary?
Look, Doris, it has a clock in its stomach and it glows in the dark.
I think we should snap it up, Dick.
Do you like things that are fun, but are also functional?
Look, Dick, this is fun.
But is it functional, Doris?
Do you want to be the talk of the town?
Oh, Dick and Doris, we were just talking about you.
Then the Opel Isuzu is your kind of car. It's not ordinary, it's fun but functional, and people will talk about it.
Did you hear what Dick and Doris bought?
The Opel Isuzu, a dandy new small car, at your Buick Opel dealers.
I've got bronchial asthma. I've also got a newspaper to get out.
That's why I take Broncaid tablets. They help keep my occasional asthma attacks away for hours. I tried Primatine tablets and they worked. But then I heard about Broncaid. Broncaid has an extra ingredient to help you get rid of congestion. Primatine doesn't have that. Broncaid works for hours, so I can work for hours.
Broncaid tablets do more to let you breathe easier. Use only as directed.
Miss Armstrong? Miss Armstrong?
Yes?
May I ask you a few questions?
Well, I am rather rushed.
It'll only take a minute.
Oh, all right.
Thank you. Miss Armstrong, I hear you're going into seclusion for the most important production of your life. What's it going to be?
I'm not quite sure.
But how do you prepare for something without knowing what it is?
Oh, my doctor will help me. You see, this is very different from my other roles. Oh, and I must follow all of his orders.
Your doctor?
Yes. First, I must set up regular appointments with him. Eat well-balanced and nourishing meals. Exercise moderately.
I see.
And stay away from all pills and other medications, except those prescribed by him.
What does that have to do with the performing arts?
Oh, everything. The preparation for any performance requires discipline. You see, I'm preparing for a baby. With my doctor and the March of Dimes to coach me, I won't miss a cue. Oh, and I already know the most important line.
What's that?
The March of Dimes says, "Be good to your baby before it is born."
Down through the years, King Lear's agonizing cry has echoed to haunt every parent's heart. How sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. Certainly, no one could have more cause for lament than the late Squire Rokesby, one of whose sons has already hastened him to the grave, while the other, seeking his own selfish revenge, is about the task of raising him from it. We return to learn why, as Chadsworth, the old butler, hurries agitatedly into the room where Beauregard Rokesby lies helpless on the bed.
Are you all right, Master Beauregard?
What's wrong, Chad?
Oh, the way your brother went by me down the stairs, his face white and his eyes so wide and blank, I thought perhaps...
That I'd followed my father's example and left this baleful world? No. Not yet, Chad, not quite yet.
I don't understand. There's so much I don't understand. Whiskey, how did he get back in here? Mr. Bishop let him in?
No, not my brother, never him, the last two.
Then how did he get in this room? The door was closed when I left, taking him with me. And it was closed when I returned.
And still, he did return. No ordinary dog, wouldn't you say, Chad? I want you to leave us alone. There's a lot, I think, to be done, and very little time left to do it.
Now, Mr. Beauregard, the doctor...
Oh, the doctor is long since out of this, as are Miss Toinette, her father... But not quite yet, my brother and myself and my father. Leave us alone a little, please, and trust me when I ring to tell you all that needs to be told.
I'll take the dog with me.
No, leave Whiskey behind.
Are you sure you're all right, Mr. Beauregard?
Right as I'll ever be. Goodbye, Chad. At least for now.
Goodbye, sir. I hope you know what's best.
I may not. But how about you, Whiskey? Or whoever you are.
Now, the rest you'll have to take on faith, as well as I can remember it. Some was what I saw, and most what I was told. But here's about how it went.
What is it, Whiskey boy? Huh? What? You want me to go with you somewhere? You know I can't do that. I can't walk. What? All right. If you insist, I'll try.
Meanwhile, I was downstairs trying to cope with Mr. Bishop and Mr. and Miss Tremaine, who'd come to call.
Chadsworth.
Chadsworth!
Yes, Mr. Bishop.
Where is the brandy? Curse it, we're out of brandy. Get some more. Haven't I told you to keep this bar stocked?
Begging your pardon, sir, but there's a bottle right here below.
Well, give it to me. No, you old fool. I'll open it myself. And get me my shotgun.
Your shotgun, sir?
I am going to take that mean speckled hound with his long, lugubrious face out to the barn and shoot him.
Whiskey? With a shotgun?
He's so treacherous, I don't want to take a chance on missing. And don't worry. I have a handgun to finish him off.
But, Mr. Bishop, your father's dog, kid.
When I get through with him, he'll be nobody's dog. And see who that is.
Yes, sir. I can see by the ring it's Mr. Tremaine and his daughter.
Oh, get rid of them. I don't want to see them now. And don't worry. I'll handle the guns myself.
Good evening, Mr. Tremaine and Miss Antoinette. Tonight is a bad night to be here.
Why?
Well, miss, it's just that things are at 6s and 7s, as you might say.
Is Mr. Bow worse?
I don't think there's been much change.
My daughter and I will wait in the sunroom, Chad. Please inform Mr. Bishop we're here.
Yes, sir. I'll do that right away, sir.
I don't believe we should have come tonight, Papa.
I don't believe that for one moment we should lose touch with the Rokesby family until you're one of them, Antoinette.
Daddy, really, must you be so open about it all?
Honey, when you're as stretched over a barrel as I am, a person has no shame. Only the determination to survive. And that has to go for both of us. You're not as young as you might be, and I'm so over-invested that I haven't any dowry to offer you.
Daddy, it's all right. We'll make out. You can trust me, be sure of that. But, why, Bishop, honey, were you just going to pass us right by and pay us no never mind?
Well, Nat, forgive me. This is a bad evening. Things are a little out of hand.
Is there, anything we can do to help?
Oh, I think not, sir. Nothing I can't handle by myself.
Well, then, please excuse us, Antoinette.
You're sure there's nothing? I mean, is it Bo? Is he worse?
He's not well, my darling, not well. I think he's not long for this world. He's in a wild delirium at the moment.
Well, have you sent for the doctor?
Yes, and for the priest. I think he'll need more of the second. And now, please, forgive me. I must attend to my brother.
Oh, yes, of course, Bishop, son. Don't worry about us. We can let ourselves out.
But I had seen something that the Tremaines had not. The gun that Master Bishop was carrying hidden inside his coat. And now I stopped him at the foot of the stairs.
Out of my way, Chadsworth.
No, Mr. Bishop, please. In the name of heaven, hasn't enough misfortune come to this house? Leave the poor dog alone.
You want to die with him, Chad? And my brother?
No, sir, but
Then step aside.
No, sir.
What?
I cannot shut my eyes to murder anymore. Before I let you harm an innocent beast and Mr. Beauregard, who cannot defend himself, I'll raise the countryside.
Why, you...
Help, Mr. Tremaine, help. I lay unconscious till the shot awoke me. And yet, somehow, I seemed to step out of myself, to be a witness of all the things which could not have happened, and yet did. I could see Mr. Bishop stop at the bottom of the stairs, staring in incredulous disbelief as Mr. Bow, whiskey tugging at his nightshirt and leading him, a man paralyzed and unable even to stand, across the upper landing and through the door to the squire's room. And then, somehow, as if picked up by the wind, I was behind Mr. Bishop as he raced up the stairs, taking out the gun. I was watching the drama in the squire's old bedroom. Mr. Bow had unscrewed one of the big knobs of the four-poster bed and drawn from a hollow place there a document which he was reading, while Whiskey lay on the bed, as he often did with the old master, watching him and licking his lips.
What do you have there, Bo?
Something whiskey led me to. The real will, Bishop.
What do you mean, the real will?
One that our father had drawn and validated before we ever came home. And would you like to know who the real heir was? Whiskey there, with Chadsworth named as his guardian.
That would never hold up in a court.
Oh, wouldn't it? I wonder. Chadsworth didn't really see Father sign your will, and I doubt if he'd support you once he knew Father's real wishes. He knows just as well as the squire did we're neither of us worth a damn.
It doesn't matter. It's all beside the point. Because that one's going to be destroyed. Give it to me.
Oh, no, Bishop. A little late, but this is one wish I can grant my father.
Give it to me, cripple, or I'll take it from you.
Try it.
I'll have it. If I have to put a bullet through you, hand it over or I'll shoot. My wrist! Oh, no. Whiskey made me shoot myself. I never thought it would be like this.
Before my time, you took me. Now I take you in the same way.
Father. No. Father Bo's no better. He'd have sold the house from under you just as soon as I would. Why didn't you take him too?
Tell him, Bo.
He didn't have to. You see, I'm already dead.
As I said, the shot brought me awake. But by the time I got to the room, it was empty, save for Mr. Bishop lying dead on the floor with a bullet through his heart and the will, the real will, in his hand.
Shocking thing, really, shocking. Bishop, you think actually committed suicide because he murdered his father?
That's the way it would appear, sir.
Well, and there's absolutely no question about this will being valid. Well, you'll be a rich man, Chadsworth.
It's all been a few years past now, and we're both a bit grayer and a little nearer the end of it all. But they've been pleasant enough years for all the sad memories. Whiskey and me sitting here by the fire of a night. I look across at him in the squire's wing chair, and I wonder if it's a trick of my old eyes. But moment by moment, day by day, year by year, that long hound's face with the jowls and the sad, wise old eyes grows more and more like the master, till when the fire burns low and the candles wane, I could swear he sits there and nods at me and winks and says,
Not the best way to end, perhaps, Chad. But at least there's been the satisfaction of knowing that the old dog had his day, after all.
If a man and his dog live together long enough, and you believe my fantasy that I stated in the beginning, do you suppose a man and his dog could change ends of the leash and no one would notice the difference? I'll be back shortly.
Give your hand to a friend. Give your heart to your love. But give your phone to contact.
Here in my hand is a little capsule. It's tiny, yet it contains enough cold medicine to help relieve cold symptoms caused by every known virus. Every known virus. It's Contact. The same 12-hour Contact you can buy. This year, Contact with its tiny time pills will touch more lives, help more colds than any other cold medicine, tablet or liquid. Think about that next time you're sick, sneezing, dripping, all clogged up. Then let us help you with real medicine, like Contact. We're number one in the whole world, for good reason.
Give your hand to bread. Give your heart to your love. But give your heart to Contact.
It works all day, all night. Take home years direct.
Tired of deodorant sprays that seem to miss their mark? Want something powerful you can put on in the dark? Shift to the English leather stick. The stick shift is on. English leather's got the stick that'll always protect you. With the English leather scent, they'll never forget you. Shift to the English leather stick. The stick shift is on. There are 3 good reasons to shift from an expensive deodorant spray to English leather deodorant stick. 1, English leather goes right where you want it, so there's no waste. 2, it's concentrated to give powerful protection. But the best reason of all is right under your nose. The famous fresh, clean scent of English leather. English leather's got the stick that'll always protect you. With the English leather scent, they'll never forget you. Shift to the English leather stick. The stick shift is on. Look for the English leather deodorant stick at your favorite toiletries counter.
Looking in some old records, I found that a Thomas Chadsworth, the last resident of Rokesby Hall, lived to be 93. There's no mention of how many years Whiskey lived, but there is a note to the effect that the day the old man died, his dog, an old gray speckled hound, went to his long last sleep as if in sympathy. I wonder if they're buried in the garden beside the squire and his wife. Our cast included Court Benson, Russell Horton, Morgan Fairchild, and Ian Martin. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Buick Motor Division and Contact, the 12-hour cold capsule. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
Good job these days is hard to find. But if you're a high school senior, you can reserve that good job right now. One that gives you almost $350 a month in spending money to start. Takes care of all your basic expenses and teaches you a valuable technical skill. In addition, you'll be helping to save lives and preserve natural resources. It's a job in the Coast Guard, and it's yours now if you reserve it under the Delayed Enlistment Program for high school seniors. Sign up today and wait up to 12 months to begin active duty. You'll know that a good job is waiting for you, and you're actually accumulating seniority that counts toward your pay and promotion even while still in school. For all the facts, see your Coast Guard recruiter or call this number toll-free, 800-424-8883. That's 800-424-8883. Don't be left on the beach. Reserve a good job now with the U.S. Coast Guard.
Hi, this is Corey Wells of Three Dog Night. Music is my business, but fighting pollution is everybody's business. So listen to Woodsy Owl. Spread the word. Never be a dirty bird.
So, help Woodsy spread the word. Come on, never be a dirty bird. In the city or in the woods, help keep America
A public service message on behalf of the U.S. Forest Service and this station.
WFAA, Dallas Fort Worth.
CBS News. Helicopters will fly over Colorado's Big Thompson Valley again on Tuesday, but their primary mission this time will be to look for unrecovered bodies. I'm Mike Stanley reporting on the CBS Radio Network.